Welcome to the Humphrey Metrodome in Minneapolis. Big crowd is gathering. We've got on Sunday night baseball the Baltimore Orioles and the Minnesota Twins. Hello, everyone. John Miller along with Joe Morgan. And for baseball purists, baseball indoors, particularly here at the Metrodome, is most offensive. And one thing is for sure, whether you're a purist or not, the Minnesota Twins, and particularly indoors in this ballpark, are very offensive-minded. With Puckett and Hrbek and Gaetti, it's a wild and wide-open kind of baseball in this park, Joe.
Well, they've always had good hitters as far as Minnesota Twins are concerned, but the problem with the Minnesota Twins is the other team gets to hit here in the Metrodome as well. And they've really struggled a little bit. They had a great May, but lately they have not been hitting well, and their pitching has been struggling. So you put that together, and you're not going to combine for many wins.
Now, Cal Ripken of the Orioles has another streak going, not just the consecutive game streak, but tonight he can set a record for consecutive errorless games.
Well, a middle infielder, shortstop, second base, their job is to play defense. Anytime you set defensive records, it's very important if you're a middle infielder. And I know this is going to be very important to Cal, and hopefully for him, he's going to reach that goal tonight.
So maybe we'll see an all-time record here tonight, or maybe we'll see the dream shattered. We've got the Orioles and the Twins on this holiday weekend. And we've got a matchup of two former Fordham University pitchers, Pete Harnisch going against Roy Smith. John Miller and Joe Morgan back here at the Metrodome as the Orioles and Twins are about to go at it. Now the Sears Diehard starting lineup for the visiting Baltimore Orioles. It'll be Steve Finley leading it off in right field. Tim Hewlett bats second at second base. Randy Milligan has been a great surprise this year at first base. Mickey Tettleton, the designated hitter. Joe Orsulak is in left field batting fifth. Cal Ripken hitting sixth. He's been down in the order the last couple of weeks. Craig Worthington bats seventh at third base. Bob Melvin is the catcher. And at center field batting ninth, Mike Devereaux.
And the defense for the Minnesota Twins will have Gene Larkin in right field. Gold Glove winner Kirby Puckett in center. John Moses is the left fielder. Gary Gaetti, Gold Glove winner, is at third. Greg Gagne is the shortstop. Al Newman plays second base tonight. Kent Hrbek is the first baseman. Brian Harper behind the plate. And on the mound, right-hander Roy Smith.
That is Leroy Purdy Smith III. 28 years of age from Mount Vernon, New York. What can you tell us about him, Joe?
Well, he has a good fastball and a big curveball. And he's been a very successful pitcher so far this year. One of the few guys that has pitched well for the Twins. His record doesn't show that, but as we've mentioned, a lot of times lately they have been struggling offensively as well. And they haven't played as good defensively as the Twins normally do either.
Smith has had great success against the Orioles. Last year, he won 10 ball games for the Twins, all told. He faced the Orioles 3 times and won 3 straight games against them. And the first time he faced them this year in this ballpark back on May the 30th, he won that ball game 12-3. He got plenty of support from the Twins that night, and that was his 4th victory. He has not won a game since then.
So he's looking forward to the Orioles being in town again.
The umpiring alignment for the ball game at the Metrodome. Tim Cheetah, who's a native of this area from over in St. Paul, back at the plate. Gary Cedarstrom, a rookie, is at first base. Terry Cooney, who is not a rookie, at second. And Joe Brinkman, he of the Joe Brinkman Umpires School, umpiring over at third base. He is the crew chief. Steve Finley will lead it off for the Orioles. Talented young left-handed hitter. And this Orioles ball club, a club filled with youth. He was one of the many young players brought on board last year by manager Frank Robinson, general manager Roland Heeman, as the Orioles made the dramatic transition from a team that had lost 107 games the year before to being a pennant contender until the final weekend of last season, one of the great turnarounds of all time. But now the Orioles are having some problems living up to the expectations that pennant contention last year brought about.
Well, I think you're hitting the nail on the head, John. Last year, no one expected the Orioles to do anything after losing their first 21 ball games the year before. So last year they were relaxed, loose at the beginning of the season. They played well, and Robinson put together a great defensive team last year. The outfield especially played great, as you know, and that was one of the reasons that they did so well. I think this year they were expected to be in the pennant race, and they just have not been able to live up to that.
1 ball, 1 strike, the count to Finley. could be some trouble. Gagne, the shortstop, racing over, and he's there to get it. Findlay fouls out to the shortstop. Gagne, after a long run, got there, and then he made it look easy at the last. So Findlay is retired.
You mentioned the fact that it could be trouble. Any ball that goes in the air here in the Metrodome is trouble because the Sky Dome's ceiling is light, and you could see that Gagne kept his eye on the ball all the way. Most of the time you'll look up, find it, and go to that spot, but in the Metrodome you have to keep your eyes on the ball at all times.
Here's the veteran Tim Hewlett. Hewlett was one of those fellows who was taken off the scrap heap of former Major League players by the Orioles last year, and he came on and made a significant contribution in the final month of the season. He takes a called strike. Hewlett, one-time regular player for the White Sox in the early to mid-'80s, lost his job back into the minor leagues, and then the Orioles signed him to a minor league contract last year. They did that kind of thing with a lot of players, a blend of veterans, cast-offs, and young talent, but unproven talent last year. Hewlett with a count of 2 balls and 1 strike. And the fastball is low. 3-1 the count. Now the Orioles had been struggling. They too did not have a very strong month of June. They started well in June. Then they fell apart for about 2.5 weeks. And it's 3-2. But the last 2 nights here at the Metrodome, they've come away with victories. And the Twins scored only 2 runs in those 2 games combined. Frank Robinson of the Orioles, Tony Oliva, Tom Kelly, the Twins. None of those people can remember seeing the Twins do so little offensively in 2 games against the Orioles. Here, Puckett on the run. He's got this one measured. 2 men down.
When the ball was first hit there, John, it looked like it could be trouble, but when you have Kirby Puckett in center field, he closes the gap on the baseball very quickly, and that became just a routine play. You can see he's yelling right there, "I've got it." He even has to slow down to get it. But the ball was right between the left fielder and the center fielder when it was first hit.
This is Randy Milligan. Very interesting player. 270 batting average, but look at that on-base average. There's that curveball, one of the curveballs that Smith throws, and it's a called strike. Milligan, who was off to a very slow start this year, but he has really gotten hot in the last month or so. Fouls one back. 0-2 the count. This guy will take a walk. Managers are always talking about players who are overly aggressive, going up there, swinging at bad balls. Not so with Milligan. One time considered one of the top young prospects in the Mets organization. But they had a first baseman already at the major league level, and there was nowhere for Milligan to go with a guy named Keith Hernandez playing first at Shea Stadium. The Orioles ended up making a deal with Pittsburgh to get him. We're glad to have him. 2-2 the count. Milligan in the number 3 spot in the order, which for the last 7 years has belonged almost exclusively to Cal Ripken, as you see Tom Kelly, the Minnesota manager. Milligan will get on base. He's got an excellent eye, and he hits with power. He got 13 home runs, 65 walks. He has walked more often than any major league player.
It's more than twice as anyone except Cal Ripken.
That's into right center field, and that's into the alleyway. Cutting it off is Larkin, the right fielder, and he'll hold Milligan to a single.
Milligan did a good job of hitting there. The ball was away, and he lined it to right field. And the reason it was a good job of hitting is because Roy Smith had come inside a couple of times with a good fastball and then went away. And a lot of times a player will pull off or try to pull that pitch.
Now here is Mickey Tentleton. Tentleton is another fellow who draws a lot of walks. Look at that on base average, 411. Tentleton, 11 home runs, second on the team in home runs. Ball 1. They got him from the Oakland Athletics, who had released him at the tail end of the 1988 spring training. Tentleton reported to the minors. The Orioles brought him up after about a month in 1988. He did an excellent job for them. But then last year, talk about blossoming. He hit 26 home runs, made the All-Star team.
And he would have hit a lot more if he would not have been injured and on the disabled list for quite a while.
2 down, runner at first, and Smith misses low. Ball 2. Now in the Metrodome, as you see Tentleton, a switch hitter batting left-handed with power. This is a left-handed pull hitter's ballpark. Right field is a very friendly home run hitter's park, sort of a reverse image of Fenway Park, an indoor version of Fenway. And that's a ball. 3-0 the count. They've got a curtain out there in right field, so you have to get the ball elevated above that curtain. But it is very close to home plate. There's a look at it. Curtain is 23 feet high.
The ball carries very well in the Metrodome also, and also in Seattle. The Astrodome's the only place the ball doesn't carry well indoors.
And it's 3-1 now to Tettleton. On deck is Joe Orsulak. The Orioles, we mentioned Milligan with his 65 walks. Tettleton's walked 59 times. You mentioned Cal Ripken with a lot of walks. The Orioles team has drawn more walks than any major league team. Popped him up on 3-1. Hrbek, he wants it. That's the inning. One hit, one left for the Orioles. Now we'll get a look at the Minnesota Twins from the Metrodome. No score in the game. John Miller and Joe Morgan back at the Metrodome. Twins coming up. Let's take a look at the Sears diehard batting order for the Minnesota Twins. Albert D. Newman leads off at second base. Gene Larkin in right field. They're both switch hitters. Kirby Puckett in center field. Kent Hrbek. This ballpark was invented for him. Gary Gaetti bats fifth. Brian Harper was really found a home here and blossomed. He's hitting sixth. Paul Sorrento, the designated hitter. Young player up in the minors. John Moses in left field. Greg Gagne bats ninth at shortstop.
And the defense will have Steve Finley in right field. Mike Devereaux is the center fielder. Joe Orsulak is in left field. Craig Worthington is at third base. Cal Ripken Jr. is the shortstop. Tim Hewlett is the second baseman. Randy Milligan is at first. Bob Melvin is behind the plate. And on the mound, right-hander Pete Harnisch. And Harnisch lost his last outing. As you can see, 7-4 in the season. He lost to the Cleveland Indians in his last outing. He pitched 8 innings, gave up 6 hits and 5 runs. 4 of them were earned. And you look at his base on balls to strikeouts, and you see why he does have some problems sometimes. That's 41 walks to 58 strikeouts.
Friday night, the series began here at the Metrodome. The Orioles a winner there, 6-2 with a 4-run 7th inning coming from behind. Dave Johnson over the really struggling Alan Anderson. Anderson 17 wins last year. He's only 2-11 this year. The Orioles also a winner last night, 6-0 back at Bob Malacky, who pitched a 3-hit shutout here. Here's Newman. He's a switch hitter, utility type player. He plays all over. He's got excellent speed, can steal bases. And there's a foul off to the left and out of play. Here's what happened last night. Malacky with his finest performance of the season. And if you pitch a 3-hit shutout in this ballpark against the Twins, you have pitched awfully well. Erickson, a rookie, was the loser. 1 ball, 1 strike. Harnisch will have control difficulties from time to time. But, Joe, he's one of those bulldog kind of pitchers. The more trouble he's in, the better he seems to pitch. Tried to kick that one, but he couldn't. Base hit.
Last week in our ball game, remember, Rob Dibble kicked the ball and they went to shortstop. You see Cal Ripken Jr. getting a jump on the ball, but it's hit too sharply and it's hit right up the middle. He was shading Newman a little bit toward left field.
Harnisch tried to, like he was playing like Eddie Jackman, the old New York Rangers goaltender. And that's where Harnisch is from. He's from the New York area, out of Fordham University. 1987, he was 8-1 at Fordham and led them into the NCAA regional tournament, where he pitched against a very fine University of Georgia ball club. We're talking 3 years ago now. He threw 179 pitches in a game and beat Georgia. Down the right field line, this is Orsulak. He's got a chance to double up Newman. Here's the throw. Milligan has to come off the bag. The hurried throw from Orsulak, pulling Milligan off the bag, and Newman is back safely. Larkin retired.
Newman thought the ball was in all the way. He probably did not check the outfield as he should have before the ball was hit. But you can see here, it's not even a tough play for Finley, and he winds up. If his throw is accurate to first base and Milligan can stay on the bag, Newman is doubled off.
And that was Steve Finley, not Joe Orsulak. Orsulak usually plays right field for the Orioles, but here in the Metrodome, they have made the shift with Orsulak going to left field and Finley in right field. Finley ordinarily with a very strong and accurate arm. Here's Kirby Puckett. Kirby has been struggling, as have all of the Twins. The thing that they're most amazed about here, he's got one out, one on, is that not only is Puckett slumping, but so is Hrbek and so is Gaetti. And Tony Oliva, the hitting coach, and manager Tom Kelly, they cannot recall a time when all three of them were in a slump together for such a long period of time.
Well, you could see Kirby's numbers there, 270 and then up to 342, and now he's back to hitting over 250 here in June. So he's really been struggling the first month and the third month. Had a good second month. We talk about struggling though, and the guy's hitting 300. That says a lot for you when you're struggling.
Newman at first with one out. Now Harnish has not been very adept at holding on base runners. In fact, most of the Orioles pitchers have been easy against which to run. Harnish tried that slide step there to hurry the ball to the plate, but he missed with the pitch. Ball one. No score in the game. Kirby Puckett. You know you got a great ball player out there when people are saying what's wrong with him, and he's hitting .302 with 10 home runs and 43 RBIs. Kirby Puckett, one of the great players in the game, one of the great guys in the game. That's foul and out of play. You say to Kirby Puckett, Kirby, how you doing? He said, I woke up this morning and I was breathing, so it's a great day. He says that's 99% of it right there. The other 1% of it is being out here playing ball. That's 100%.
Well, he has a great attitude about the way to play the game. He comes to play hard every single night, and he misses very few ball games.
A ball and a strike. Fouled off the catcher, Bob Melvin. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Pete Harnish on the mound. Talking about that game in college. 179 pitches. He won the game against Georgia 5-2. He walked 9, and he gave up 11 hits. Struck out 8 and won the ball game. Chris Carpenter, who's with the Cardinals, Derek Lilliquist with Atlanta, Steve Carter's with Cleveland, all were on that Georgia ball club. So here's Harnish. He's only 23 years of age. He struck out Puckett, who chased a bad ball.
Well, the thing that Harnish did so well there is he stayed inside on Puckett, which gets Puckett looking for the ball inside. Now he throws it high and in, up and in. This is the toughest pitch for anybody to hit. You just can't hit that ball. You may foul it off, but you're not going to do anything with it. Usually a guy like Puckett, who hits around 330, 340, does not swing at that pitch.
And Puckett, I guess, was not swinging at it when he was hitting 340.
No,
it's
probably right.
One of the reasons he's been falling. He's been swinging pitches like that throughout this series. Newman still at first, 2 men down, and he's back to the bag. Kent Hrbek, the hitter. Gigantic, hulking figure at the plate. In an interesting stance. He's always tinkering with his stances. Keep it away from him. Strike 1. Hrbek has been the only Twins hitter who's really hit well in this series. He's had 3 doubles and a home run in the first 2 ball games of the series. They say this ballpark was made for Hrbek, and yes, they do. They love Kent here. He's from the area, grew up a Twins fan. That right field porch is so reachable for him. Not that he needs any help, as strong as he is. There goes Newman. Melvin's throw. He's in with a steal.
Melvin took a little longer to get rid of the ball than he should have. Therefore, he didn't have any chance. That's a pretty good jump. He didn't have a great jump, and Melvin caught the ball high in the strike zone, which gives you a good shot, but he took him a little longer to get rid of the ball. And there's Hrbek covering. You have to think every time Hrbek takes a play or takes a throw, there's a risk of him making an error and having his consecutive errorless game streak stopped.
If he does not commit an error tonight, we mentioned this at the outset, but we'll try and firmly establish it. If he goes throughout the game with no errors, he will own the all-time record for a single season, consecutive games by a shortstop without an error. Little dribbler. Hewlett to Milligan. Hrbek retired, and down go the Twins. And you've seen what the folks here in Minnesota have been saying. Twins not swinging the bats well. Lots of baseball coming up this week on ESPN, as in every other week. No score here. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan at the Metrodome. Joe, a lot of no-hitters this weekend. 3 no-hitters. Andy Hawkins pitched one today. What do you make of all of that?
Well, it makes me look kind of bad. I said that the pitching has been a little down this year, and I really believe that. The top half of the staffs are still great. But when you drop to the bottom half, the bottom 4 or 5 pitchers on the staff, you have problems. And the top half of the guys are the ones that are pitching no-hitters.
This is Joe Orsulak with a swinging strike 1. 1 strike to count. Orsulak will be followed by Cal Ripken and Craig Worthington. No score in the game as we play the 2nd inning. Orsulak has led the Orioles in hitting in each of the last 2 years, and he is leading the ball club in hitting right now. Curveball, and there's a base hit. Orsulak, a very unorthodox looking hitter up there. But he gets it done.
So far, Roy Smith has thrown a lot of slow curveballs, not hard curveballs. And this is a slow curveball, and Orsulak just waits on it. Watch, he gets out front a little bit right there. Now he waits, and he pulls the ball in the hole. Nice piece of hitting by Orsulak. He waited on the ball very well. One of the things you do is you drag your back foot, and that lets you take the bat level through the hitting zone for a split second longer. Stay back on the back foot, your swing starts up and becomes an uppercut.
Here's Cal Ripken. You see that batting average, 251. He's hitting 6th in the order. There's a strike. Since he was dropped from the number 3 spot down to the 6th spot, that average has gone up more than 40 points. He's still not hitting the ball well for power, but he is getting some base hits now.
Watching him right now, this at bat, from what I've seen in the last few months, he is in a better hitting position right now, John, because he is not hitting from as close the stance as he was before, and is from as far away from the plate where he had to dive into the ball. He squared off a little bit with his feet. That lets you whip the bat through the strike zone a lot easier, and I think you're going to see him start to hit for more power pretty soon. So that's more of a square stance there for Cal Ripken than he had been before.
That fastball's in there for a strike. It is 0-2.
Now, Cal Ripken had been way to the right rear of the batter's box, right there where his right foot was. He had been that far away and diving into the plate. Now he's moved closer to the plate, and you can see his feet are almost square. Still a slightly closed stance, but before it was exaggeratedly closed.
There's the breaking ball outside. 1-2 the count. Nobody out. Runner at first. We're in the 2nd inning. No score in the game. Roy Smith trying to help the Twins get the month of July started out nicely. They won 7 games and lost 21 in June after going 21-7 in May. Gaetti bobbles it. Still in time to get Orsulak at second. Throw taken by Newman. Ripken is safe at first.
If Gaetti would have come up with this cleanly, they could have turned the double play, but he stays right with it, whips it very quickly over to Newman, and they get the force out on Orsulak, but no chance to get Ripken at first base.
Gary Gaetti, he does not often have problems like that.
Gold Glove winner. He's the finest defensive third baseman in the American League.
So with 1 out, Cal Ripken's at first. Here's Craig Worthington, one of the top rookies in the league last year. Takes a called strike, a fastball, but he has really struggled this year. He's hit well against Smith the few times he's faced him. Worthington last year hit for a low average, but was driving in runs. That one is away from Harper, and over to second base goes Cal Ripken. It is scored as a wild pitch.
A guy that throws a big breaking curveball will get a lot of wild pitches unless his catcher is able to block the ball and keep it in front. See, this is a slider that breaks low and away. You can see that Harper tried to get in front of it, but not a lot he could do. See, he's trying to get over with his body, and it hits off his right shoulder and bounds away. Because the spin was going that way as well, it made it impossible for him to keep it in front of him.
right back with another breaking ball. 2-1. Cal Ripken talking about Smith and why he's had great success against the Orioles. And Cal says that he's a very smart pitcher, and he changes speeds, and he changes speeds on his breaking ball. Really keeps you off balance. 3-1.
Well, the art of pitching is keeping the hitter off balance. Whether you do that with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball inside and then go away, or whether you do that with an 85-mile-an-hour fastball and then come with an 80-mile-an-hour changeup. As long as you change speeds and throw strikes, you will be successful as a pitcher.
There is a runner in scoring position. Worthington fouls it back. 3-2. The graphic we saw a moment ago says it all about where Worthington is this year. He's not hitting in any situation this year for the most part. Last year, he hit over 300 with men in scoring position all season long. He was excellent in the clutch. There's Cal at second. 1 out, no scores. Second inning. That's a pop-up. And Newman, the second baseman, wants it. Looking up into the dome. Out number 2. Ripken holds it second. When there's a ball in the air in this ballpark, you cannot take your eyes off it, Joe. What's the best way to go after it when that ball's up there?
Well, you have to keep your eyes on it from the time it leaves the bat. But the problem is, as you can see, it's a light-colored ceiling, and the baseball is light-colored. Even when they rub it down, there's still some white on it. So you got a white background and a white baseball. That makes it tough to pick up the baseball.
Here's Bob Melvin, veteran catcher, batting .236. Foul tips one. No score, 2 down, runner at second. Kirby Puckett lost one in the dome here Friday night. And he said it was maybe the 4th or 5th ball that he's ever lost in the dome here. None of the Orioles had ever seen him lose one.
They had the same problem in the Astrodome when it first started. When they first built the Astrodome, they first started to play there. It was tough to pick up the baseball against a light background.
And that's a called strike. It is 0-2. Bob Melvin, who has hit extremely well on the road and hit almost nothing at all at home this year. Look at that. That's not the way it's supposed to be.
Well, thank goodness he's on the road, he says.
Strike 3 called. He got him looking. So the Orioles get a leadoff hit by Orsolak, but nothing more. 1 man left. At the end of 1.5 innings, there is no score. No score in the game here at the Metrodome. The Orioles and the Twins. John Miller with Joe Morgan. And Joe, let's go back to that Orioles second inning for just a moment.
Well, it was good job of pitching by Roy Smith. After the first guy got the base hit, he pitched Bob Melvin inside with a couple of fastballs for a strike, and then he went away for the strikeout. See, Harper set up right on the outside corner, and he hits the glove. Perfect pitch. Not anything Melvin can do with that.
Here is Gary Gaetti to lead it off for the Twins. Last of the second. No score in the game. And Harnish throws in the fastball up and in. Fouled back to the screen by Gaetti. Gary Gaetti has been a big run producer for the Twins. Gold Glove third baseman, a team leader. Hard-nosed player. Very involved in the community. And the changeup, strike 2.
That's a good pitch right there. You throw a good fastball, and the guy's a little late on it, so he figures you may want to come back with a fastball, and he has to get it, the bat through the zone a little quicker, and you take something off the pitch, and he's dead.
And it's a ball. With Pete Harnish, the Orioles are doing something at the big league level that maybe other organizations, in fact the Orioles organization in years past, would have done at the minor league level. He's learning on the job. Into the hole. Ripken's got a long throw here. And he just did get him. First base umpire Cederstrom making the call.
You know, we talked about Ripken and the 72-game consecutive errorless streak. It starts to play on your mind about this time. When you watch Ripken here, watch him take a little extra time to get himself ready right there to make sure that he makes an accurate throw. Good play. But you can see him take just a little extra time. Right now, he would try to get rid of the ball normally. but he takes an extra pat of the glove and sets himself properly and makes a good throw.
There's a strike to Brian Harper. Look at that batting average, 304, and I'm sure around the country people saying, well, who is he? Well, Brian Harper's been with some other organizations. He's been cast off. Tom Kelly seemed to find just the right spot for him. This is Devereaux in center field. Out number 2. Harper is promptly retired. He's a Brian Harper fan right there. Brian came here. He was made a role player, and Kelly feels that the important thing for him, Joe, is not to overuse him. Get him in there against certain pitchers, not against others. And he's become a real solid 300 hitter.
I think if a manager takes a little time and looks at all of his players, especially the guys who are not stars, and figures out what they hit best, fastball, curveball, or whatever, and use them against those types of pitchers, they would have more success.
Here is Paul Sorrento.
But the problem is managers get caught up in the situation because players want to play every day against all types of pitching, and some hitters are just not capable of handling certain pitches.
Left center field, Orsolak on the run. He's not going to get to it. Sorrento will stop at second with a stand-up double. Rookie just up for the minors recently, and Sorrento gets his second double of the year.
It was a fastball out over the plate, and he drove it in the gap in the left center field. Hit it real hard. It's right out over the plate. He stays back real well here. Now he drives right through the ball. He has an uppercut in his swing, so he's going to hit a lot of fly balls, and a left-handed fly ball hitter will work well here in the in the Metrodome.
Here's John Moses. He's hitting .239. Another role player. He's a switch hitter. He runs well, can steal a base for you, can play all around the outfield and play first base.
Well, they were checking to see if Sorrento missed first base on his way to second for the double, and Cedarstrom says no, he did not miss first base, so we'll resume play. Very rarely is that play called anyway. Most of the time the guy catches one part of the bag and you're looking from a distance if you're an infielder and you think he may have missed it, but the umpires are right on top of those plays.
2 down, runner at second. That's a foul off to the left. Look out into the crowd in a hurry. 0-1 the count. Sorrento, by the way, the man who just hit the double, came to the Twins from the California Angels organization in the deal that sent Bert Blyleven out there a couple of years back. He hit 27 home runs last year in Double-A ball. Came up in September but did not play well, but they think that he's going to be a very fine big league hitter. He's got 1 home run already. Just played in a handful of games. Moses, the 8th place hitter in the order, takes a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, as I mentioned, he's a back leg hitter, which means you're staying back so that when your bat comes through the zone, it has a little uppercut in it. So he's going to hit a lot of fly balls. And that goes with the fact that he hit 27 home runs last year. That means he does lift the ball.
Moses, meanwhile, has not been hitting the ball much, regardless of the style. The pitch is high for a ball. 2-1. Pete Harnish got a very strong arm, throws hard. Doesn't throw Nolan Ryan hard, but he's up around 90. Good slider. He's still trying to perfect his changeup. And he doesn't like you if you're on the other team. 2-1 the count to John Moses. 2 down. That's foul and out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
They're playing very shallow in left field, but the center field and the right field, they're in pretty much normal position, but the left fielder is playing in very, very tight. Orsolak is playing like he's a pop-up hitter. You know, you mentioned that he wouldn't like me if I was on the other team. I wouldn't like him either, John.
And that's the way it should be.
Exactly.
Time taken by Moses at the plate. Gagne, the 9th place hitter, is on deck. He would be next.
There's that barrier between pitchers and hitters. Even on your own team, you're not always fond of each other.
2-2 pitch. And it's 3-2.
In fact, I remember Sparky Anderson. He didn't like the pitchers on his own team when we played at Cincinnati. Pitchers swore him down that he hated them.
Well, the pitching staff is sort of a team unto itself in a way, isn't it?
Yes, it is. They are. Pitchers think differently than any other player on the field.
Harnish with 7 wins, 4 losses, tied for the team lead in victories. He's been the best of the starting pitchers for the Orioles this year. He got him swinging with an off-speed delivery, and so Harnish gets out of the little jam. A 2-out double by Soretto. He is stranded. No score after 2. On July 1st, 1941, the Yankee Clipper Joe DiMaggio hit safely in his 44th consecutive game, tying Wee Willie Keeler's Major League record, which had stood for 43 summers. The next day, DiMaggio would smash this record en route to his legendary 56-game hitting streak. Joe DiMaggio. And we're back in 1990 now at the Metrodome, a ballpark like none that was in existence in the time of DiMaggio. It's Mike Devereaux, the 9th place hitter for the Orioles, takes ball 1 from Roy Smith. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters. We'll be with you again next Sunday night just before the All-Star break from Cleveland as the Indians take on the world champion Oakland Athletics. Cal Ripken, the last voting I saw, was leading the way at shortstop in the American League.
And he's obviously closing in on 2 other records, one tonight for fielding and the other. He's trying to get close to Lou Gehrig, but he's got 5 years to go to get to Lou Gehrig.
As it called strike to Devereaux.
I was sitting here looking at the dimensions here and looking at the ballpark, and I said to myself, what would Harmon, Killebrew, and Bob Allison do in a ballpark like this? It would be tough to think about how many home runs Killebrew would have hit in the Metrodome.
Well, he hit plenty in the other ballparks in which he played. The old Met Stadium out in Bloomington. And, of course, had a double-deck left field grandstand, and Killebrew hit some in the upper deck out there. There's a pop-up, and a Hrbek looking up into the dome and on the move. Harper there, but Hrbek wants it. What Herbie wants, Herbie gets. 1 down in the 3rd. No score in the game from the Metrodome. Now, a final in from the Kingdome in Seattle. The Mariners win it 6-5. They score the winning run on a bases-loaded walk to Matt Sinatro from Milwaukee reliever Tom Edens. And the Dodgers were ahead 5-2 in the middle innings, but St. Louis came back to defeat Tommy Lasorda's crew 6-5. Here's Steve Finley, the Orioles leadoff hitter. He fouled out to short his first time, bluffing the bunt, taking ball 1 on that breaking ball from Roy Smith. Well, now, Joe, you know, in this ballpark, this Metrodome, you're talking about the ball carrying well. When the place first opened, it was a much different park than it is now. That's foul right back toward Joe Morgan. The dimensions are the same as they were then. 343 down the left field line, 385 to left center, 408 to straightaway center, 367 out into right center, 327 down the line. What's changed is the height of the fences out there. That's one thing. There's a called strike, 1-2 the count. But also, they installed air conditioning in here. In 1982, there was none. A day like today, where it was 90 degrees outside, you'd come in here, it would be 87, 88 in here with no wind blowing. That's a liner. Base hit right in front of John Moses. That's the 3rd hit for the Orioles. But the ball flew out of here. The fences were only 7 feet high all the way around. And now you've got the big curtain out in right field. You've got a plexiglass fence that goes up above the wall in left field. Probably can't see it on the screen. The glass is invisible in effect. But right now it's about 70 degrees in here. The ball doesn't carry as well in the cool atmosphere. There's that plexiglass in left field. Gary Gaetti tells me if you hit a home run to left center, in particular, from left center over to straightaway center, you have to crush it. Right field, however, is a different story.
Well, I heard you say Gaetti said that. Tell you what, I played here, John. The ball carries well here. this is a small ballpark compared to, say, the Oakland Coliseum or the Kansas City ballpark, Royal Stadium. This is a small ballpark, and guys that play in these ballparks always tell you it's not that easy to hit home runs out of there, but it is. It's like Wrigley Field. People say it's not easy to hit home runs out of there, the guys that play there. But it is a small ballpark, and so is Wrigley Field in Chicago. But the ball still carries well here. And not only that, the infield, this AstroTurf is hard. The ball shoots through the infield, so it's a very good hitter's ballpark. And that's one of the reasons over the years that they have hit so well here. You know, I mean, this ballpark, I would venture a guess, without even looking at statistics, to say that over the years they've hit more home runs in this ballpark and hit for higher averages.
Well, what Gaetti is saying is that they hit well here. Right. He likes to hit here.
Right.
You see the background behind us. There's a throw to first. The background, as we saw that last shot of Roy Smith on the mound, he says it's a great hitter's background. And the ball does shoot through the gaps here. The outfielders are very unaggressive going after balls that they might go for in other ballparks that will fall in. But he says in terms of home runs, the Twins hit no more home runs here than they hit on the road. And the statistics actually back that up at home this year.
Well, this year's an off year, though.
Well, but it's not that much different from other years. The numbers that they hit and give up here are almost identical to what they do on the road. Runner going, the ball is popped up. And Hrbek wants this one. He's got it. So Tim Hewlett fouls out to first, 2 down.
Well, I've heard other players like Jose Canseco say if he played in a place like this, he'd hit 60 home runs. And a lot of the other players say that they love to hit here. And I know I played here a few games, and it is a good hitter's ballpark.
Well, you see the batting average and the runs scored, and nobody in the Twins disputes that. They only dispute home run hitting here. Hrbek doesn't, because right field is a different story. It's just very shallow. This is Randy Milligan, who's been the Orioles' biggest offensive star this year. He takes ball 1.
I remember going into Chicago when I first came into the major leagues, and Ernie Banks saying, the ball doesn't fly out of Wrigley Field. This is just a good place to play baseball. And the balls fly out of Wrigley Field.
Of course, Ernie hit, what, 60% of his home runs at Wrigley Field.
But the ball flies out of there, I know that.
2 down, runner at first, no score. We're in the 3rd inning. And that's a ball. 2-0 the count. Twins have hit 27 home runs here this year in 37 games, and they've hit 29 home runs on the road in 38 games. And I see what you're saying. You're saying, hey, that's this year.
Right.
But since they changed the air conditioning, their contention is that that's an average year. There's a nice play by Gagnon to get Milligan. The Orioles are gone. 1 hit, 1 left. No score after 2.5. As they look at the Capitol building in St. Paul, and we are in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. What a beautiful area of the country, right alongside the Big Muddy, the Mississippi River. Tonight, the last night to cast your ballot for the All-Star balloting for 1990. Been meaning to ask you, Joe, to give me your All-Star team for the year, now that the balloting is just about all closed.
Well, give me a ballot and I'll fill one out here.
Somebody get Joe a ballot, will you? This is Greg Gagnon, the 9th place hitter for the Minnesota Twins. Hitting .233. He's been struggling at the plate. Pete Harnish misses, ball 1.
Gagnon had a good year last year. Hit .272 for the season and hit 9 home runs. He did it very well offensively, and he did a great job defensively also.
No score in this game. We're in the last of the 3rd inning. The Metrodome not living up to its billing here today. The Twins have been struggling, and Roy Smith has been shutting down the Orioles, as he usually does.
It's Tom Kelly, the manager.
Sitting in the dark in the corner of the dugout. Here's Finley on the move, and he makes the catch. Hit a sliding grab out there. Might have gotten some turf burn on that right knee.
John, that was a great catch, not because he had to slide to get it, but he got a great jump on the ball as well. He was off with the crack of the bat, and that's the only reason he could make that play. If he would have hesitated at all, the ball would have fell in for a base hit.
And in this ballpark, if it falls in front of him there,
right,
the ball's going to roll for a long, long time. To the top of the order we go. Here's Al Newman, the leadoff hitter. Strike one. There's a look at the right knee of Finley. What do you think? You think he...
Well, it looks like he was smart enough to have a knee pad underneath that just wore through the pants. It didn't do any damage to his knees.
Well, I hope so.
A lot of outfielders that play AstroTurf wear knee pads and knee guards to protect themselves from those types of burns.
Finley is truly a gifted outfielder. He does get an excellent jump on the ball. He's got outstanding speed. Very young and still learning how to play, though. Harnish is too high. 2 balls, 1 strike. Larkin is on deck. The Twins, when they faced Harnish here back on May the 30th, it was Harnish's worst outing of the year. They knocked him out by the 4th inning. That's foul and out of play off to the left. A lot of foul territory in this ballpark, as you see there. Harnish gave up 6 runs in 3 innings that night and lost to Roy Smith. The Twins were right up near the top of the division at that time. They were finishing up the month of May with a flourish. But almost since that time, they've gone exactly the other way. 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball just misses. 3-2. Oakland lost today to the Toronto Blue Jays 4-3. Toronto snapping a 6-game losing streak. And the White Sox won, although they got no hit. This is more and more looking like maybe the White Sox are going to make a run for it this year. No hits, and they win by 4.
This is Finley's play. See how he comes in, keeps his eyes on the ball all the way. Now he slides on his right knee, and the AstroTurf just burns that uniform away. But you can see right there he has a knee pad on, so it protected him from having his knee burned as well as his uniform.
Now here's Gene Larkin. 1 out, Newman at first. Harnish with his first walk of the game. And Larkin looks at a called strike. Wednesday, the 4th of July, Joe and I will be here as the Boston Red Sox atop the American League East play here at the Metrodome. A special holiday Major League Baseball matinee for you. That day, the 4th of July, of course, the anniversary of the famous Lou Gehrig Day at Yankee Stadium. Finley going back on one. And he's got this one. Out number 2. Larkin from Columbia University, as was Lou Gehrig. Broke all of Gehrig's home run records at Columbia. A little short on that one, though.
Yeah. But Finley again got a good jump on the ball, and he made the play look very easy.
This is Kirby Puckett now. Kirby has not had a hit, nor has he reached base in this series. Kirby, very unusual to see that happen to him in this ballpark. Last year he hit .390 in here. And that's about an average year for him in this ballpark. 2 down and nobody on. Puckett, a .320 lifetime hitter against the Orioles. The last time they were in here, he hit 2 home runs against them and beat them in the late innings with a 3-run homer. And he has gone 0 for 8 in this series. We're in the last of the 3rd. It's Minnesota nothing, the Orioles nothing. Pitchers duel here at the Metrodome. Kirby Puckett at the plate with Newman at first. Newman stole second his first time. That's a base hit for Puckett. Newman will go to second as Orsulak is up with the ball. And the table is set for the big slugger, Kent Hrbek. Kirby Puckett finally gets himself a base hit in this series.
Well, the thing that Puckett does so well is he really drops the barrel of the bat on the ball. And he keeps the ball on the ground. He doesn't hit this ball in the air. See how he just drops the barrel right on the ball. And he hits a lot of ground balls through the infield here. And that's why he's able to hit close to 400. If you hit the ball in the air, you're not going to hit 400.
Kent Hrbek trying to shake himself out of a slump. He had a terrible month of June. Interesting stance, Joe. What do you make of that stance?
Well, Hrbek changes stances very frequently. Just depends on how he's swinging the bat. And since he's not swinging the bat so well, He hadn't been anyway. He's changed again, and he's hitting from an open stance. A lot of guys feel like from the open stance, you can see the pitcher better. You can see the ball come out of his hand better. I'm not one that subscribes to that theory, but a lot of people believe that. And if it works for them, that's what they should do.
He took a mighty cut. 1 ball, 1 strike. The way he's bent over there.
Well, the only problem with that, John, is he's got a lot of movement here. Watch how much movement before he actually swings at the ball. He turns his shoulder in, he steps in. All that movement causes head movement as well. And it's tough to keep your eyes focused on the baseball. You're supposed to have as little amount of head movement as possible.
Slider misses, ball 2.
The great hitters of all time, they had a couple of things in common. Their head did not move very much, and they always had a stride that was shorter than their original stance.
You think this is symptomatic of the fact that he's been slumping? Maybe some of the reasons?
Well, I think he's trying something new. But hitting is psychological. If you feel good in a stance, you feel like you can hit from that stance, you may have success.
2-1 pitch. He was behind that one. There's Newman at second base. And over at first is Kirby Puckett. 2 down, both ready to go in anything.
But the point is, the more movement you have in your body before you start your swing, the more problems you can create for yourself. If everything's going right, you can hit standing on your head. But when you're having problems, you have to go back to basics, and that is keep the head still and keep the stride short.
Well, Hrbek keeps slumping. He may try that one next. This one's in the dirt. Ball 3. 3-2. Kent Hrbek, who grew up not far from the old Metropolitan Stadium, this winter looked for a while like he might go to the Detroit Tigers. But nobody who knew him, I think, ever really believed that he'd leave here. He loves it here. Newman at second, Puckett at first. Both run very well. There they go. The pitch. And he walked it. So Harnish has loaded the bases for Gary Gaetti.
Well, Harnish does not want to give in to Hrbek, so he throws him a breaking ball, and it's in the dirt. It's ball 4.
And here's Gary Gaetti. He grounded to short his first time. Gaetti. This is his spot. This is what they pay him for, the RBI spot. That's always when he's been at his very best. Pete Harnish in a whole lot of trouble. Strike. Got that low strike zone, it looks like, with Tim Cheetah back at the plate today.
Well, Gaetti is very upset because he thought the pitch was low. And what you want to do in this situation is make sure you get a good pitch to hit. And the best way to do that is if the pitcher misses with the first pitch, then you narrow your strike zone. You make the pitcher have to come to you. But with 1 strike, now you have to attack the pitcher.
Bases loaded. 2 down. The pitch on the way. Well, trying to murder it. 0-2.
Well, that first strike also gave Harnish the luxury of being ahead in the count. He could throw him the curveball in that situation. If he would have missed with the first pitch and gone 1-0, he would not have been able to throw him the curveball, because if he gets behind 2-0, he's really going to be in trouble. So I think the first pitch is always very important if the guy's hitting with the bases loaded.
Now it's 2 strikes to Gaetti. Harnish to the plate. Just missing. Well, he tried to exploit that low strike zone. This time it was too low. Maybe a little bit outside.
Well, I think the ball moved back over the plate, but it was low. And that's the pitch that he used for a strikeout earlier. Started it over the outside, just off the outside corner, and moved back onto the outside corner for strike 3.
Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way. Slider, a check swing by Gaetti. Nice save by Melvin. The ball in the dirt. Frank Robinson, the great Hall of Famer, trying to muster some patience with his oh so young ball club, particularly that man, Pete Harnish, 23 years of age.
I think this is a pitch that he has to throw for a strike, or at least get Gaetti to go after, because you do not want to go 3-2 with the bases loaded and put the runners in motion.
Bases loaded, 2 down, no score. The pitch. That's a slow bouncer. Worthington right next to the bag, steps on third. Puckett is forced, and Harnish gets out of trouble. The troubles continue, however, for the Minnesota Twins. After 3, no score.
Try Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Goodyear Eagle Radials, the best-selling performance radials in the world. And by Minolta, leaders in business equipment for over 25 years.
That's a big sandcastle being built right now. I mean, a big sandcastle? That's looks like it's twice the size of the state capitol building there. I don't think so, really, but that's all part of the big celebration going on over in St. Paul called the Taste of Minnesota. We're getting a taste of big league baseball indoors at the Metrodome as Mickey Templeton, the Orioles cleanup hitter, takes ball one from Roy Smith. John Miller, Joe Morgan with you. That's a foul that will go back out of play off to the left. 1 ball and 1 strike to Templeton, who fouled out to first in the first. Now, the Orioles, having won the first 2 ball games here, there's some ESPN fans. Those fellows will be tuned in next Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. We'll be in Cleveland at the big old ballpark on the shores of Lake Erie, the world champion athletics and the Cleveland Indians. And we're with you every Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Sunday night baseball. We visit all the ballparks one time. This is our visit to the Metrodome.
We're talking about Hrbek.
Liner in the right field, and 1 bounce to Larkin. The first hit of the game for Templeton.
This is Templeton's stance. He's straight up. We talked about Hrbek being bent over. Templeton starts almost straight up. Now he strides into the ball, but he keeps his head pretty still, especially on that swing, and he lines it to right field for a base hit.
It's another interesting looking stance there, the one utilized by Templeton.
Well, truthfully, right in between those two is a great stance. Templeton is too straight up, I believe, and Hrbek is bent over a little too much at this time.
Orsilac showing bunt. He decided not to, but the ball was in for a strike. 0-1.
Let me explain that a little bit. What happens when you bend over a lot and you move, your first movement is up, which brings your head up. It's to straighten your body up. If you stand straight up and you land on a stiff leg, that jars your head, and it also causes movement. So right in between that is where the perfect stance is. If you look at a guy like a Stan Musial or Ted Williams, they were in a little crouch, but not a deep one. And they use their legs well. Rod Carew, all the great hitters have that in common.
Templeton at first, nobody out. We're in the 4th inning, no score in the game. Just off the outside is Roy Smith. 1-2 to Orsilac. Now he's got an interesting, sort of unorthodox look to him at the plate, Joe. I mean, his feet are moving all over the place when he swings. Got him swinging. And there's 1 away. Put that fastball right past Orsilac.
Well, it was a real good fastball, and it's away, and it's moving away. It's right out toward the outside corner, and moves out there, and Orsilac was just a little late on it. He actually, his feet doesn't matter because he's already swung through the pitch by the time his back leg moves. See, what happens after you make contact with the ball is not nearly as important as the things you do before you start your swing.
Is Cal Ripken with 1 out, runner at first, and he takes ball 1. Cal hit into a force play his first time. So maybe it's deceiving when you're watching live with Orsilac. Looks like he's all over, but there we saw that he's not really.
No, he's not, and you can't be moving your back foot and swinging a bat because obviously you don't have any balance there. What happens, as I said before, is when you drag your back foot through the swing, that lets you stay on that level plane a little longer.
There's that slow curveball from Smith, and he missed with it. Ball 2 to Cal Ripken. You see Cal's average year since his rookie year of 1982.
Not bad totals, especially for a shortstop. Again, I try to stress that the important thing for a middle infielder is to play defense.
That's out of play. Foul ball.
Sometimes we get spoiled thinking that middle infielders are supposed to hit 300 or hit 25 home runs. But the real job of a shortstop is to make all the plays defensively. The real job of a second baseman is to make the double play and make the plays in the field. And that's what you look for first in your shortstop and second baseman. You have to be strong defensively. Now, what you add as a hitter makes you either a good player or a great player or just an average player. And, of course, Cal Ripken brings great offensive statistics with him.
And breaking ball misses. 3-1. What would you say to those who say, well, Cal should move to third base. Not so many aspects of the defensive game to have to worry about, which may detract from his offensive game.
Well, I don't think that is probably the case now. At first, it may have been, but I think he's so comfortable playing shortstop now. It's like second nature to him. I don't think he has to think about playing shortstop anymore. Everything is now just reaction.
But swung at that rising fastball, fouled it back.
But I think if you move him to third base, now he has to start to think all over again. He has to think about playing third base. He's not going to react anymore. This is, some of the things that people are alarmed about is his batting average has dropped from 311 to 257. Talking to Frank Robinson, talking to other players, they don't really believe it's because of the consecutive game streak. They believe that maybe his mechanics have not.
There goes Tendleton, and Cal lines it into left center field. Puckett on the run. He's going to have to play it on the bounce. Holding at second is Tendleton. And Tendleton was running on that one, but he stopped thinking that Puckett might catch it, and I think Kirby deked him into thinking so.
Well, the thing that makes Kirby Puckett great is that he knows what to do on every situation. He knows he's not going to be able to catch this ball in the air, but he keeps it in front of him. But not only that, he decoys the base runner into thinking that he has a chance to catch the ball, and even though he was running, he has to hold up because Kirby may be able to make the catch. But only a great center fielder can do that, because that's a tough play to be able to short hop that ball on the run.
Now with 2 men on, here is Craig Worthington. That's a foul ball. 1 strike to count. So what you're saying, getting back to Cal Ripken,
right.
the notion of all of the things that a shortstop has to worry about, and
right.
he's in every pitch of every game,
right,
having to almost be like a manager out there, shouldn't detract from his hitting.
Well, the problem is it does detract from his hitting, but let me explain that a little better here.
1 strike pitch, curveball. It's a fly ball, medium deep center. Tendleton is tagging at second. Here's the catch by Puckett, and Tendleton is not going to challenge it. Gagne cuts it off.
Well, again, you see what Puckett does. He gets himself in a position where he's moving towards the ball and toward the infield, so when he throws the ball, he can get more on the plate. You see a lot of guys get lackadaisical and catch that ball moving away from the infield. Now watch, see, he sets himself. Now he starts in right there. All his momentum is coming forward, so that if Tendleton tries to tag up, he's going to be able to make a strong throw. As I said, a lot of guys catch that ball moving backward, and you can't get anything on the throw. That's why he's a Gold Glove center fielder.
4 times running.
Well, let me explain that about Ripken. Every middle infielder through the course of a season will get tired mentally because he is in every play, has to think every play, has to tell the outfielders where to throw the ball. He has to do so many things. So it does take its toll. But what I was saying, by moving him now from shortstop to third base, I don't think would help him because he does everything now naturally at shortstop. And if he goes to third base, that's going to put added pressure on him to react to these things and think about them before they happen. Now at shortstop, half the time he just reacts to the things because he knows what's going to happen on every play and he knows every situation. So it does help him, but by the same token, being a middle infielder, you have more wear and tear on your body, physically and mentally.
A ball and a strike to Bob Melvin, who was called out on strikes. Did it detract from your game offensively?
Yeah, of course. I think it does, because you have to give most of your concentration. When you're in the field, you have to give 100% concentration defensively to that position because that's your #1 job. As compared to most outfielders, left fielders and right fielders, they just relax out there.
Easy. Anybody can do that.
Right.
Look at this guy. He's been standing there the whole day. Now one comes to him. Hey, tough chance, John Moses. Stood there thinking about his next at bat until that ball came out there. That's it for the Orioles. An area should be in the Hall of Fame one of these days. Here's Brian Harper as we go back to action, and Pete Harnish throws him a called strike 1. I had Joel Skinner, catcher with the Cleveland Indians, walk up to me the other day. Joe, he's a fan of our Sunday night telecasts. Never misses one if he's not traveling. And he says, point out Joe Angel to me. I said, what do you need from Joe? He says, I just want to see what he looks like. You keep calling Joe Morgan Joe Angel all the time, and I'm intrigued. Oh, that was him. And Joe Angel, excellent broadcaster.
And real nice guy.
I wouldn't go that far.
There you see Brian Harper trying to get on base any way he can. with an 0-2 count, that's not a bad ploy. He says the ball hit him, and it may hit the bat for a foul ball, but he's saying that it got him on the shoulder.
Oh, it's terrible pain there.
This is not the NBA, Ryan. You have to work for what you get.
He pops one up. The right fielder Findlay is waiting. Now he'll move a little bit. And you saw that shot there, never ever once taking his eyes off the ball. One away in the 4th inning. No score in this game. Paul Sorrento coming up now. Big crowd at the Metrodome. Since the Twins went to that World Series in 1987, what a thrilling series it was as they beat the Cardinals. They've had tremendous attendance here at the Metrodome. They did 3 million the following year. First American League team ever to do that. And why not? I mean, this is an exciting club, and they make a lot of things happen. It's a wild place to see a game.
Very comfortable place.
That's ball 1 to Paul Sorrento.
You know, you mentioned that Joel Skinner watches our broadcast and whatever. It reminded me that Larry Bird is a big baseball fan. I saw him at a golf tournament, and he was telling me how much he enjoyed the telecast, how much he enjoyed watching baseball. A lot of people do not realize that he was a very, very good baseball player. You know what position he played, right? Just guess.
6'9". He must have been a shortstop.
First baseman. Anyway, he was a very good baseball player until he hurt his finger in college. Because he really loved baseball and he was a good player. So he watches us, and he's a big baseball fan as well.
You think he could have been, I mean, as great an athlete as he is?
I'm sure he could have, because he's also a very intelligent athlete. He would have adjusted to whatever he had to do to get to the major leagues. But he was a first baseman, and he hurt his finger, so he had to give up baseball.
And the Boston Celtics are awfully glad he did.
I'm sure they are. Another guy, Magic Johnson, is a big baseball fan as well.
Celtics are a team that a number of years back had one of those multi-sport players, a baseball pitcher, played in the NBA, Gene Conley. He was about 6'9", I think. 6'8", 6'9". This is Orsolak, medium deep left field, and Sorrento is retired. 2 men down in the Twins' 4th inning. No score in the game.
Well, Harnish throws a fastball away, even though the catcher sets up inside. He throws the ball out over the plate, and Sorrento hits a fly ball to left field. He has a good shoulder turn, nice stride. He opens very well, and he follows through pretty well. He stands a little more straight up than pitching coach might advise. You'd like you to bend your back a little bit more on your follow through.
This is John Moses. He struck out with a runner at second and 2 down in the second. No score. We're in the 4th inning. Harnish delivers. Strike.
You mentioned Gene Conley used to play basketball and baseball. You know, for the Celtics, he played basketball. And Bill Russell, a former Celtic great, used to tell a joke all the time about, he said Gene Conley said he had to get out of shape to go back to play baseball. I didn't like that, but he used to tell me that all the time.
Those NBA guys, they think they're the only guys in shape.
Right, that's what he felt like, but he said baseball players were out of shape, and I disagree with him. There may be a couple, but there are also a couple in the NBA who look out of shape too, so I think it goes that most players in all sports are in pretty good shape.
Like that Jordan fella, he didn't look like he's in that great a shape to me. Fouled out of play by Moses, a count 0-2. They played some basketball in here this past year in the NBA at the Metrodome. Here's an idea of what the Twins have done in this ballpark over the years and what they haven't done here this year. They're below 500 even here so far in 1990.
Well, I think the amazing thing to me is that they got within 3.5 games of the A's and then just fell apart.
Hewlett drops it, and he has no play. So Moses is safe.
They're scoring that as a base hit.
Now Moses runs well.
Yeah, but a ball like that bounces up, he should be able to make the play. See, that ball is not on the ground or tough backhanded play. It's a big hop, and he should be able to come up with it. In fact, he runs away from the ball. See, one thing you can't do on AstroTurf is run away from the ball toward the outfield. It makes it a tougher play. You have to cut across, and even if you have to take it on the short hop. He actually played that into a base hit.
Here's Greg Gagne. Right-handed hitter, the 9th place hitter. Strike one. Pretty tough-looking fastball from Harnish there. Maybe the scorer was worried about Hewlett's consecutive game errorless streak. Hewlett's got 10 straight games since coming back from his injury.
Well, I'd hate to see Cal Ripken have a play like that. It would be a lot tougher, of course, from shortstop to throw the guy out.
Cal got charged with an error the other night in Baltimore. The official score then, after talking with everybody involved, Cal, it was a play on a throw toward third. He talked to a number of players and even people on the other ball club, Cleveland, third base coach, and some of the other people involved. And everybody that he talked with was unanimous that the play should have been scored as an error on the center fielder who made the throw. So the error was removed. The streak lives.
Well, the one thing that I'm always concerned with is, you know, because I was in a situation where I was going after a streak like that once. The one thing I'm concerned with is I want it to be a fair scoring situation, because the guy who holds that record worked very hard to get that record. And the guy that takes it from him should have to work equally as hard and do as good a job as he did. And that's the thing that always scares me about consecutive errorless games and things like that.
That's a check swing foul. Let's go back, Joe, the other night. This is the play on which Ripken was charged with an error in Baltimore.
Well, the point is, did Brinkman have any plays that were changed or whatever? And that's always the point that I worry about. It was a base hit to center field. Now,
Devereaux
fumbled the ball. Now he comes up and fires to third. All right, the ball went off of Ripken's glove, and it went away, and they called it an error. We'll get another look at it.
This is live action, knocking the mask right off of Bob Melvin. 1-2.
Well, you know, without being there, being honest with you, I couldn't make a judgment. But first of all, Devereaux made the error in center field. He bobbled the ball, and it puts pressure on everyone else to try to make up for his mistake. So I would have to think that the error should be charged to the outfielder. But here again, I was not there. And it's very tough to gauge from some of the angles that we get.
Well, Hewlett was the third baseman behind Ripken. Cal trying to cut that throw off, keep a runner from going to second. As Moses back to the bag at first. 2 down here in the 4th inning. No score in the game. Hewlett said if Cal had never touched the ball, he might have had a hard time going wide of the bag to get it himself. Harnish was the pitcher. He was backing up the play. He concurred with that. The third base coach for Cleveland, Rich Dower, he also agreed. That's foul and out of play. 1-2 the count. So the official score then changed the ruling.
Well, if they're all there and they have a better shot of it, obviously, than we would here, and being perfectly honest with you, you have to admire the official score. At least he took the time to ask people who were involved in the play and had a better angle than he had, because he could not have a perfect angle from up here in the press box either. So, but my only concern again is that, you know, like I said, the guy that holds the record, you know, they worked hard to get that record, and I hate for something to happen where it's given to someone else and taken away from them.
1-2 pitch, and it's low, 2-2. Well, Cal did not make any kind of an effort to get the call changed. No. And his comment afterward was, hey, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it one way or the other. The man who does own the record, now sharing it with Cal right at the moment, Eddie Brinkman, and there weren't many shortstops better.
Well, that's my point. Brinkman is obviously very proud of the fact that he played great defense, and that was actually his claim to fame.
That's a base hit to right field. Moses will stop at second base as Finley comes up with the ball to the cutoff man, Cal Ripken. Gagne with a single. That was quite an at-bat by Gagne.
Well, he had a good year last year, as I mentioned. He battled very well last year. He hit the ball to right field a lot more. And he became a much better hitter. In the past, he said he had tried to hit too many home runs, and it cost him average-wise. So now he's trying to go the other way again because his average is down low. He's trying to raise it back up.
So here's Al Newman now. Newman has twice come up with nobody on base in this game, and he's hit a single, and he's drawn a walk. Now he's in a spot with 2 down to try and deliver a run, but he's hitting below 200 in these kinds of situations this year. It's not his strength. That's a foul off the left field line. It'll go back out of play.
You brought up a point earlier that Craig Worthington did not hit for a higher average last year, but he hit well with men in scoring position. I personally believe that you may have freak years if you're not a good hitter and drive in runs and hit well with men in scoring positions. But I think in order to do well with men in scoring position over your career, you have to be a pretty good hitter. So you have to hit around 280 to 300 anyway if you're going to be consistent.
One strike delivery, and that's fouled and back out of play.
I would bet that if you take a guy's career average as far as hitting with men in scoring position and compare it to his career batting average, that, you know, would be close. It wouldn't be like 200-point difference. It may be a guy hits 270 and then hits up through hitting 330 with men in scoring position. That would work, but not when you have 270. You're not going to hit 400. That's Tom Kelly. He's trying to figure out how to score some runs for the Twins. They've gone 16 innings, I guess, now without scoring a run, or 15 2/3.
2 on, 2 out. Hewlett. And he throws him out. This side is retired. The Twins have put 5 men on base in the last 2 innings, and they've stranded all 5 of them. No score at the end of 4. Here we go to the 5th inning now from the Metrodome in Minneapolis. John Miller with Joe Morgan. And a curveball from Roy Smith to Mike Devereaux, Baltimore's 9th place hitter. Is ball 1. Devereaux fouled to first, his first time. No score in this game. High pop fly. Gagne out. Moses in. Now Moses backing up a little bit. And he's got it. I don't think the wind was blowing it around out there, was it? Wednesday, we've got baseball on the holiday. The Independence Day celebration will be there with America's national pastime. The first place Red Sox right here against these Minnesota Twins. Joe, you want to do that game?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be here. That's 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central. Here is Steve Findlay. A strike. Findlay 1 for 2 in the game.
You know, John, the Baltimore Orioles this year obviously are a lot different than last year. As you mentioned, they were in the race right down to the last weekend of the season. And I think it's just a matter of they're just a little off in every department.
There's a high drive down the line. If it's fair, it could be trouble. It is gone. A home run for Steve Findlay. And there's that porch in right field. It is very, very inviting. That is the first home run of the year for Steve Findlay. So that is not something he often does.
Well, he gets a fastball inside and he drives it over the right field wall. Watch, this is a fastball and it's inside about belt high, and a lot of left-handers can really hit the ball inside from the belt down, and he turns on it very well, and I think he knew it was gone the moment he hit it, and he's taking a razzing from his teammates because that is his first home run.
Now that's strike 2 to Tim Hewlett. The first pitch to him is also a strike, so it is 0-2 to Hewlett. He is flying to left center and he's fouled out to first. I mean, it's 327 right down the line there, but just kind of a high fly ball, and it was out of here with plenty to spare over that 23-foot high curtain. Steve Findlay hit 2 home runs last year. One of them a grand slammer against a left-hander at Yankee Stadium, Chuck Carey.
He likes these short porches.
A ball and 2 strikes to Tim Hewlett. Randy Milligan is on deck. So we have a run in this ball game. The Orioles ahead 1-0. Slow curve. It's inside 2-2. That is the first home run of this series for the Orioles, and it is the second home run of the whole series. Hrbek hit one Friday night, and Hewlett goes down swinging. 2 down.
Well, he set him up with a changeup inside, and he comes back with a fastball on the outside corner, and Hewlett has to take a seat. I remember talking to Tom Seaver once. He used to throw that real leafless pitch every once in a while, but he'd always follow it up with the good fastball.
Curveball to Milligan in the dirt. Milligan 1 for 2. This guy, Joe, 3 years ago, he was named the top AAA player with Tidewater, the Mets AAA club. Curve for a strike. Led the league in homers, RBIs, hit over 300. Just didn't get a shot. Went to the Pirates. They gave him about 80 at bats, and they gave up on him. But he's been an important man in this Orioles lineup.
Well, he has good power. He swings the bat well, and I think the surprising part of it, he's been a good RBI man, and that's what you want from your first baseman. You'd rather you know, if you have to give up something, you don't care about the average as much, but you want a guy at first base that has some pop in his bat that can drive in some runs. I think that's one of the things that baseball has gotten away from in the last few years. And by that I mean there are certain positions on the baseball field that are supposed to supply power and RBIs. Your first baseman, your corner position, your first baseman, your third baseman, your left fielder, and your right fielder. Those guys are supposed to have some pop in their bat.
And he draws a walk, which is something else that he often does. It's the first walk of the game. And there's Milligan. He's now added to that total his 66th walk. Tantleton is coming up now, is second in the American League. And everybody else is a little ways behind those two. And I guess you could take that a couple of different ways, Joe, as we see Tantleton come up. He's 1 for 2. Sounds like some teams are not afraid to pitch around these two guys. Ball 1. 2 down, runner at first, a run in. The Orioles ahead 1-0. Now, you used to draw a lot of walks, but you hit up in front of those benches and Perez's and Lee Mays and guys like that.
Right.
These are the guys who are supposed to be driving in those guys.
Yeah, you're not looking for base on balls from your 4th, 5th, and 6th place hitters.
A ball and a strike. Meanwhile, leadoff man Finley has walked 17 times. And those top 2 hitters, they rotate a lot of people around in those spots, but none of them draw many walks. Phil Bradley, who had some wrist surgery here recently, hit a lot of leadoff for the Orioles, and he did draw his share of walks. But nothing compared to what these fellows have been getting. Frank Robinson believes that the Orioles are going to have to get a legitimate cleanup type hitter to go with these guys. 1-2 to Tentleton.
There you see Al Newman and how deep he's playing Mickey Tellton. Tellton doesn't run that bad for a catcher, but Newman feels like with the AstroTurf the ball will get to him very quickly.
Almost like a 4th outfielder out there. Change up high and away. 2-2 the count.
But see, one of the things that happens when you get that deep is it makes the angle you have to take to the ball a bigger angle, and the ball picks up speed on the AstroTurf. So when you play deep like that, unless the ball's hit right to you or within 5 feet, you're really losing range rather than gaining range.
3-2 the count. You ever play out there like that on the artificial turf?
No, I didn't play there because I felt like you'd lose range. If a ball's hit up the middle right now, he would never get to it. I don't care how slowly or whatever, the ball would pick up speed, and because he has to run so far, he would not be able to get to the baseball.
Hockey goaltender comes out toward the man with the puck to cut down his angle.
Exactly.
Runner going, strike 3 swinging. Tentleton chased a bad ball. So the Orioles get the 1 on the Finley homer. 1 man left on. They've stranded 6. 1-0 Orioles. The year was 1971, and Baltimore's Mike Cuellar faced Harmon Killebrew.
And that may be it. It is number 500 for Harmon Killebrew. Harmon Killebrew hit his 500th home run.
And that was one of 573 that number 3 killer Harmon Killebrew hit in his career. And Joe, I know you want to join me in wishing him all the best. He's in the hospital out in Phoenix recuperating. He had surgery for a bleeding ulcer. We send all of our best wishes to Killebrew. Great player and just a great guy.
Yes, he is. And Harmon was a great home run hitter. There you see Tony Oliva in 2nd place, Bob Allison, Kent Hrbek.
And that 559 total for Killebrew, what he hit while he was with the Twins. He went on and played some for Kansas City at the end of his career, hit 573 all told. Here's Gene Larkin. The Twins are trailing 1-0. Pete Harnisch with a 5-hit shutout going. He's gotten out of a lot of trouble the last couple of innings in particular.
Well, you mentioned at the beginning that he was a bulldog, and that's what he shows me, that he is a tough competitor. See, the way I gauge a pitcher is not so much of all the other stats that you look at, but I gauge him on how he gets out of trouble. You know, a lot of guys, when they get a couple of men on, the floodgates open. Other guys are tough enough to get out of jams. And those are the kind of guys you want pitching for you.
Salak hurries in, and he has to play it on the bounce. That was a surprise.
Well, what happens in the Metrodome is that the outfielders other than Kirby Puckett are just not aggressive, especially visiting teams. because they know that ball will bounce over their heads. They know that they may lose it in charging the ball. A lot of things can go wrong, so they play cautiously in the outfield, and a lot of times that'll cost you.
So now Larkin is aboard his first hit, and here comes the power. Puckett the hitter. Hrbek on deck. Gaetti after that. These are the big guys, the hitters on the Twins, who cause lots of trouble. Puckett showing bunt, taking a wild fastball from Harnish. Ball one. Baltimore 1, Minnesota nothing. Last of the 5th.
Well, Kirby does not bunt a lot, but I think he just wanted to try to bring Worthington in a little bit, so if he hits the ball on the ground, it'll go past him.
The outfield backed up deep for Puckett. He's hit 1 home run more this year already than he hit in all of last year. There's Larkin at first. That's down the right field line. Slicing foul. It's a ball and a strike. There's the Minnesota third base coach, Rick Rennick. Former big leaguer with the Twins. I don't know if you can see it there or not, but he's got a shiner. His right eye. He's got a black eye. He was playing Pepper before a game. Ball was thrown into him kind of high. He reached the bat up for it. Glanced off the bat, hit him right in the eye. There's no clubhouse fracas or anything like that. Larkin is back. Pete Harnish, he's having to battle his way through these last few innings. He's already gone 1 inning more, though, than he went here the last time he pitched at the Metrodome. Well, Kirby chased a bad one.
Well, he's swinging at that high fastball from Harnish, and he's not going to be able to do much with it.
That's the pitch Harnish struck him out with back in the first.
And then the next time up, he waited and got the ball down, and he got a single to left field. So watch his swing. He tries to get up the ladder, but you can't. The reason you can't handle that high fastball is you start with your hands in a hitting position. You drop them a little bit, and that's why you can hit the low pitch. You can't drop them and raise them back up in time to get to the high fastball. That's why people have trouble with the high fastball.
1-2 pitch. That's the low fastball. Base hit center field. Larkin will stop at second as Devereaux's up with the ball. Now the Twins have the base runners again, but this time with nobody out, and Kent Hrbek coming up.
That's why he was a batting champion. That's why he hits .335. You give him a pitch to hit, and he hits it. That pitch is down and in, and he lines it into center field for a base hit. The best pitch for Harnish would have been to come back with a real high fastball and see if he would have chased it, because he's thrown him 2 low pitches and he's gotten base hits off of both.
Inexperience from Harnish?
Well, I don't like to say that, because Bob Melvin is a catcher, and Bob Melvin is a good catcher. I've watched him work on several occasions when he was with the San Francisco Giants. But I think the better pitch there was the high fastball to try to get Puckett to chase another pitch. He's already proven that he can hit strikes, so let's see if he can hit pitches that are out of the strike zone.
Well, here's Kent Hrbek. The Baltimore bullpen's going to get busy now. How many more of these crises can Harnish handle? There's the bullpen, the right-hander Brian Holton, the left-hander Kevin Hickey, a couple of veterans out there. 2 men on, nobody out. Baltimore 1, Minnesota nothing. Ball 1. Frank Robinson trying to stay calm.
He does look calm right there, doesn't he?
Looks untroubled.
Hey, he has really changed since I played for him in 1981 and 82.
Frank himself feels that he's learned over the years a few things. Thinks he handles things a little better, particularly in relations with the press and even with his players. 2-0 the count now to Hrbek.
Well, I think at the end of 1982, when I played for him, I thought he was a great manager at that time. 81, I wasn't so sure. He was still a little bit rough around the edges, so to speak. I thought in 82 he became a very good manager, and that he understood the players much better, and he had more patience with the players, and I think he's continued to get better in that area, and I think he's a great manager.
2-0 pitch. Hrbek hits it off the hands, foul, and it is 2 balls and 1 strike. There is Gene Larkin, the runner at second base, and Kirby Puckett, the runner at first. Nobody out. Twins have 7 hits in the game already against Harnish. Plus, he has walked 2 of them. They've had 9 base runners, and we're in the 5th inning with nobody out, and yet they have not scored. 1-0 Baltimore.
Yeah, but he keeps walking this tightrope. He's going to fall off pretty soon. You can't do this with good hitters.
Here's the 2-1 pitch to Kent Hrbek on the way. Here's a high drive deep in the right center field. This one has a chance. It is gone. A home run. A 3-run homer for Hrbek. 3-1 Minnesota.
The one thing you can't do is give good hitters a shot at you a couple of times a game with men in scoring position or men on base. You can only walk that tightrope so long, and the big guys will get you. It's a low fastball, and Hrbek just drives it. I mean, this ball is hit way up there. That's why I say the ball travels well. It's a low fastball. He's a good low fastball hitter, good extension, and right there he knows it's a home run.
And just like that, it is now 3-1 Minnesota. Here's Gaetti, swings at a slider, strike one. Gary Gaetti 0 for 2. He's twice grounded out, once with the bases loaded. That was in the third. Twins have finally broken through against Harnish. In the dirt, 1 ball, 1 strike. The 11th home run of the year for Kent Hrbek. And he's the man. I mean, Kirby Puckett is one of the great players in the game, but on this ball club, it seems to revolve around Hrbek and him hitting his homers and driving in his runs, driving in Puckett.
Well, it works because of Puckett and the guys in front of him. A guy like Puckett, who will always be on base, will give you the opportunities to break open the ball game. Not only that, what happens there is with runs at first and second, there was no place to put Hrbek. Last time he had a base open, even though it wasn't first base, he could pitch to him and get away with walking him. He couldn't have walked him in that situation.
That one's going to fall in. You see Finley waiting for it. Again, the lack of aggressiveness caused by the Metrodome. And this is the kind of ball the Twins play in here. The first hit of the inning, Larkin's bloop to left, may be caught in other ballparks by Orsulak.
Right.
Then Puckett got that single to center. Now, boom, the table's set, and Hrbek goes deep. And Frank Robinson has sent his pitching coach, Al Jackson, to the mound as the bullpen continues to do its work. Elrod Hendricks, as Jackson goes to the mound, the bullpen coach signaling that both of those pitchers are ready out there. Holton, the right-hander, and Hickey, the left-hander.
Well, I think Harnish is trying to explain, I just had to come in with a pitch, and he hit it. You know, and I think he's also bemoaning the fact that, as you mentioned, 2 of the hits this inning were little bloopers that fell in front of the outfielders. But that's what the Metrodome is all about. You know, you bloop a couple in, then the guy hits a blast on you. And that's the way the Twins have played over the last few years. You know, they had a lot of guys at the top of the order scrapping the Dan Gladdens, the Kirby Pucketts, and all these guys getting base hits in front of Kent Hrbek and Gary Gaetti. And that's the way they play baseball. They chop a few, flare a few, and bang a few.
Now here is Harper. There's nobody out in this inning. Runner at first, 3 runs in. It is 3-1. The Twins lead Baltimore. Harper is flying to center and flying to shallow right. 4 straight hits for the Twins in the 5th inning. Larkin a single, Puckett a single, Hrbek the 3-run homer, then Gaetti with the single. He's at first. And that one's down the line, but foul.
Doesn't this kind of remind you a little bit of last week's inning in Cincinnati where Fernando Valenzuela was pitching and they hit a few bloops, hit him off the end of the bat, little shallow fly balls that fell in front of the outfielders, and then the guy hits a 3-run homer. It's exactly what happened in tonight's ball game.
That's right. Chris Sabo hit the ball out of the park against Fernando. That made it a 6-run inning. Fernando gave up 8 runs in 5 innings last week.
And then, only 1 bad pitch.
Then he made the Cardinals pay for it Friday night.
All right.
A no-hitter at Dodger Stadium. There goes Gaetti. The ball is a little looper towards second. It's caught by Hewlett for a double play. So the hit and run backfires against the Twins there. It's just what Harnish needed.
Yes, he did. What happens is that Harper tries to hit the ball the opposite way. If he would have just went ahead and hit the ball, he may have been all right. But he was trying to shoot the ball to the right side, but the second baseman wasn't covering anyway. And in doing so, he jammed himself, and he hit into a double play.
Paul Sorrento, rookie designated hitter, who has doubled and flied to left, takes ball one. 3-1. Twins ahead. We're in the fifth. Long way to go in this one yet. But now you're seeing what the Metrodome is all about in this inning. There's a called strike. 2-0.
But I also want to remind you that ball that Hrbek hit, it went over the 408. That's 408 to center field. That ball went way up, almost above all the seating, the temporary seating they have up there.
Foul out of play.
I mean, that's a long way.
He earned it.
Yeah.
Wasn't any high fly ball over the curtain.
That was a long line drive.
That's the second homer that Hrbek has hit against the Orioles this year. 25th lifetime. He's hit more against the Orioles than he's hit against any other team. They measured that one out. They have some kind of a system for measuring home runs here to any part of the ballpark. Their guess on that one was 438 feet.
Which was almost 100 feet farther than Steve Finley's. Steve Finley's was measured at 358. And Hrbek's is at 438.
2 down. Here's the 1-2 pitch to Sorrento. Ball 2 from Harnish. 2-2 the count. Harnish has not often been hurt by the long ball this year. Given up only 6 home runs in 93 innings, and 2 of those in his last start.
Well, you have to understand, Hrbek is a home run hitter, and he got behind him 2-1 in the count. And Hrbek was sitting on the fastball, I'm sure, and he got it into his power zone. Fastball down and out over the plate. He's going to get hurt a lot of times if he has to throw Hrbek a 2-1 fastball in that situation. I mean, that's Hrbek's pitch, and that's Hrbek's count. So there's not a lot you can do if you have to come in on that pitch.
That one misses inside. Full count now to Sorrento. Moses would be next. 5th inning, 3 runs in for Minnesota. 3-1 the score. All of the scoring coming in this inning. Finley hit his homer for the Orioles in the 5th, and then Hrbek's a 3-run shot here. Strike 3 called to Sorrento. That's the inning. The Minnesota bench beckoning to Paul to come back to the bench. Sorrento. Metrodome Sunday night baseball. Minnesota 3 and the Baltimore Orioles 1 as Joe Orsulak fouls one away against right-hander Roy Smith, who for the first time in the game goes to work with the lead. Orsulak has singled and he has struck out. Now each one of these pitchers has had to labor in this ball game. That is a foul ball. Hrbek goes over to grab it. That is the 93rd pitch thrown by Smith. We're only in the 6th inning. And Pete Harnish has thrown 96 pitches. June is over. Twins, please win. ESPN. The June swoon, it reared its ugly head for the Minnesota Twins in a big way.
It's caught a lot of teams. But it's amazing, as I mentioned, in May they were 3.5 games behind the Oakland A's.
Hrbek, he's a great big guy, but he moves around very freely and easily over there. I don't think he gets the respect as a defensive player that he deserves.
That's a very good point, John. He is a good defensive player. He moves well for a big guy, and he short hops the ball as good as any first baseman. The throws from the infield that bounce, he short hops them very well and picks them up. He's a good defensive first baseman. He's not a liability by any stretch of imagination.
Now here's Cal Ripken. Interesting, as we just saw Hrbek. He and Ripken came up the same year, 1982. And they were the top 2 candidates for Rookie of the Year that year. Strike 1 to Cal. Cal is 1 for 2.
Yeah.
Ripken won the award. Right. Here they felt Hrbek should have won it.
And obviously they had reason to believe that he should have won it. They saw Hrbek every day. They didn't see Ripken every day, so they felt like Hrbek was the best, of course.
Well, Ripken, it's a high drive deep to left. This one has a chance. Back to the wall is Moses. Gone. A home run. So Cal Ripken with his 9th home run of the year. And all of a sudden balls are flying out of here. 1 homer in the first 2 games combined, and now we've had 3 in the last 1 inning plus.
Cal has always been able to hit the ball down and in pretty well. He was struggling for a while handling the inside pitch, but now, as I mentioned, with his stance a little more square as we see it here, he can get the ball to that spot a lot quicker. See, that ball's down and in, and he's able to bring the bat through very quickly. See how he's opened up already?
As a foul out of play, hit by Worthington off to the right. Hrbek gives it a look, but it's back in amongst the spectators. Cal Ripken's 2 for 3. 3-2 the score. Been a while since Hrbek last hit a home run.
Well, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think you're going to see him start to hit with more authority, because from that position he can really drive the ball from the middle of the plate in. I think he had been struggling first half of the season with that ball inside, especially up and in. He wasn't handling it very well.
So Worthington is gone on strikes. 5th strikeout for Smith. 2 down.
Well, we talked about Roy Smith's curveball at the beginning of the ball game. He does have a good one, and if we watch Worthington, see, he kind of checks on it a little late.
2 down, nobody on. Here is Melvin. 3-2 Twins. There's a real slow curveball for a strike.
Well, what made that such an effective pitch there is he didn't slow down his motion. Usually you slow your motion to throw that slow curve. He did not.
He gives you a lot of arms and legs out there, doesn't he?
Right, but a lot of times you see a guy that throws a slow curve. There's Juan Berenger warming up in the Twins bullpen. You see a guy that throws a slow curve or a changeup. He actually slows his motion down, and a good hitter can see that, but he did not slow his motion on either one of those pitches.
1-2 the count to Melvin. Roy Smith, Cleveland for a while, journeyman, just off the outside with that fastball. 2-2 the count. Found a home with the Twins last year. Until the last couple of months, was one of the most effective starters. He won 10 ball games for them. 2-2 pitch, way outside. That one ended up back by Bob Casey, the public address announcer here at the Metrodome, sitting in that little cage behind home plate.
On those last 2 pitches, Worthington was aiming the ball. He was aiming the slider for the outside corner. He was aiming the fastball out there instead of just firing it.
Here's a fastball, and past the diving Gagne. Base hit for Melvin. Hit number 8 for the Orioles. Twins have 9 hits. A lot of hits in this game, not so many runs.
If you have the ground ball up the middle on AstroTurf, it's going to get through. This is Gagne. He gets a pretty good jump on the ball, and you see he's not running away from the ball. He's trying to cut the angle down, but he's not able to get there. If he would have taken a step behind that line, he would have had no chance at all of getting close to it.
Devereaux, the 9th place hitter, 0 for 2, ball 1. Runner at first, 2 down. Melvin is no threat to try and steal. He is one of the slowest runners around. He and Worthington both very slow runners. Devereaux very fast. There's a strike on the outside, 1-1.
And that was another good fastball from Smith. That's the way he was throwing early in the ball game. He wasn't aiming it, he was just turning it loose toward the outside corner.
3-2 Twins leading Baltimore in the 6th. Smith to the plate, a real slow one in the dirt. Harper keeps it in front of him. Melvin will hold it first. By the way, Cal Ripken with that home run, that's his first homer in 2 weeks. The last time he hit one was June 17th against the Boston Red Sox. He's got 9 home runs for the year now. He's hit 20 or more homers each of the last 8 years. Only shortstop ever to do it that many years consecutively. That's right to Gagne. Newman gets the put out against Melvin. That's the inning. Baltimore comes up with a run and 2 hits. 1 man left on. They've left 7. We go to the last of the 6th inning. 3-2. Score from the Metrodome. It's the Minnesota Twins 3, the Baltimore Orioles 2. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan. We're glad to have you with us. We hope you'll join us every Sunday night all through the baseball season. Next week we'll be in Cleveland. Now Tuesday night, a big doubleheader. The Houston Astros at Shea Stadium to face the red-hot Mets. They won again today over the Cincinnati Reds, and Dwight Gooden, he might be pitching Tuesday night. He pitched last Thursday. The second half of the doubleheader from the West Coast, the Pittsburgh Pirates and all of that heavy lumber at San Diego. Those are the 2 best hitting teams in the National League right now. Both all kinds of offensive talent. When did the Padres lose a tough one today? 11-10 they lost to the Cubs.
And they were up, I guess, 10-7 or something going into the 9th inning.
Seems to me, as we see John Moses taking ball 1 against Harnish here, last Sunday, was it last Sunday? They were in Atlanta and had a big lead and then lost it in extra innings, 11-10 that week too. This is Tim Hewlett. And Moses is retired, one away. Let's take a look at some of the scores today. Baseball, Boston 15-4. After Texas had won twice there. Cleveland, the Indians playing awfully well under John McNamara. Toronto ended a 6-game losing streak, besting Oakland. A win for Willie Blair in relief. No-hitter lost today by Andy Hawkins of the Yankees. Detroit clobbered Kansas City. Seattle beating Milwaukee in 12. As far as we know, there were no brawls in that game. What a wild free-for-all they had last night at Seattle. Here's Gagne fouling one back. You see any videotape or any reports on that, Joe?
Yeah, you know, the thing that's amazing to me, John, is when I first came to the big leagues, there was unwritten rules. You protect your players if you're a pitcher, et cetera, et cetera. All of a sudden now, when pitchers protect their players, they act like they want the world to know. They have to tell everybody, I threw at a guy, or et cetera. I mean, you don't have to do that. You do what you have to do for your teammates and let it go at that.
Well, who was this? Bob Sebra last night hit somebody.
Yeah, but I've heard several other guys do the same thing. You know, say, I have to protect my players. I have to do this. I have to do that. That doesn't need to be public knowledge. The players, your teammates know that you protect them. End of the conversation.
Deep center field. Devereaux going back. He seems to have this one within his sights, and he does. Gagne hit it well, but to the wrong part of this ballpark. 2 down. Feed me. In the American League West, the White Sox percentage points ahead of Oakland again. The White Sox were no hit today, and they won it by 4.
Things are going right for them.
And there's Oakland right behind them by just a couple of percentage points. We'll see Oakland next Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern at Cleveland. This is the leadoff hitter, Al Newman. He is 1 for 2 with a walk, ball 1. 2 down, nobody on. Twins 3, Baltimore 2. Talk about Dave Stewart, who would be due to pitch Wednesday, coming back on short rest and working next Sunday. Been talked about in the papers, Joe, but what do you think? Will we get Stewart next Sunday? Well, if we do, he can't pitch in the All-Star game.
Yeah, which would be tough because I think people would like to see a guy that pitched a no-hitter this year on the All-Star team. But, you know, that's decisions that'll have to be made at that time by their Bobby Brown and, of course, Tony La Russa, who is managing the American League All-Star team this year.
Base hit past Harnish. Al Newman's been on base 3 times in this game as the leadoff hitter. That's his job. Keeps the inning going for Gene Larkin. 10th hit for Minnesota.
The toughest thing to do is throw a baseball and get in the fielding position before it comes back through. And on the AstroTurf, you have no time to react. The ball is just one hop and it's right by you if it's hit sharply.
Here's Larkin. He's 1 for 3. His single to left in the 5th. A bloop that fell in front of the suddenly timid Orsolai, who had been charging hard for it. Then all of a sudden, fearing that the ball might not be caught and go for extra bases, he laid back and it fell in, and that started a 3-run rally.
And truthfully, when you have a 1-0 lead that the Orioles had at that time.
Deep right center, Finley back for the catch, and that's the inning. Bullpen got busy there, but now they'll immediately sit down again. 1 left. Minnesota 3, Baltimore 2. We'll be back. In South Minneapolis, part of the backdrop for this ball game. We're indoors, however, in the beautiful Twin Cities. Twins 3, the Orioles 2, and a new pitcher has come on for the Twins. The big, hard-throwing right-hander, Juan Berenguer. Joe?
Yeah, and Berenguer has done a good job, as you can see, for the Twins, but Berenguer throws a high fastball, good fastball. He throws a slider, and he also throws a screwball.
So there's Berenguer. And the top of the order up for the Orioles. There's strike 1 to Steve Finley.
But you can see by his statistics that throwing strikes is a problem with him. He has 35 strikeouts and 33 walks, which is not very good because he is a strikeout pitcher and he walks a lot of guys as well.
Finley hit a home run his last time. He's 2 for 3 in the game, hitting leadoff. Tim Hewlett and Randy Milligan will follow in the 7th inning.
This is a good situation for Berenguer because he caused Tom Kelly a problem with a couple of writers earlier this year. He said that he wasn't being used right, and they went and asked Tom Kelly about that, and Kelly says, hey, I run this team. Get out of here. Don't ask me those types of questions.
Fly ball into left center. Kirby Puckett is there. He should handle this one easily. He does. Finley retired. One away in the 7th inning. Tom Kelly.
And I agree with Tom Kelly. It's his ball club to run, and if you listen to players, they're always going to feel like they're not used properly. You know, they feel like, hey, I should be pitched more, I should be given more opportunities to get a save, or I should be hitting in a different spot in the batting order. But it's up to the manager to decide what is best for the entire ball club, and you can't worry about each individual player. But sometimes, you know, you're put in that position, and the writers are coming to question him about why he's not using Berenguer more.
Well, Kelly did say that he likes Berenguer's attitude, though. He's only unhappy if he's not pitching regularly. He wants the ball. Right center field. That's into the alleyway. Hustling over Larkin. He cannot get to it. Extra bases for Hewlett. He is going to stop at second as Puckett gets the ball back in. Tim Hewlett with his first hit of the game. It's a 1-run lead for the Twins, and now the Orioles' power is coming up. Randy Milligan striding to the plate against Berenguer.
Well, Berenguer, as I mentioned, had trouble throwing strikes. He throws a strike here, a fastball about belt high, and Hewlett lines it in the gap in the right center field. Puckett plays it off and holds him to a double.
Now here's Milligan, the Orioles' home run and RBI leader. Ball 1. Milligan, 28 years of age, rapidly becoming a very popular figure in Baltimore, both for his abilities on the field, and he's just a likable guy. Makes countless appearances around town. Everybody loves him. Base hit could tie this game. Here's a breaking ball.
Well, Frank Robinson would love him a little more if he could get a base hit right here and tie up the ball game.
Make me love you, Randy.
Yeah.
Baltimore has 9 hits. Milligan has 1 of them. He's also had a walk.
Here's the Orioles manager, Frank, giving a little encouragement from the bench.
Twins are protecting the foul lines at third base and first base. Puckett takes it, tagging up and heading for third is Hewlett, and he'll make it easily. Milligan gave that one a pretty good ride. I was surprised.
He hit the ball very well. It wasn't. He just hit it to the wrong part of the ballpark, but he hit the ball pretty well.
2 down, and here is Mickey Tettleton, the cleanup hitter. The possible tying run of the game is over at third base. Tettleton 1 for 3. Berenguer, 35 years of age. He's from Panama. He was only the 8th Panamanian ever to appear in a World Series when he got in with the Twins in 1987. And that's a ball inside. Used to be with the Tigers, with a lot of ball clubs over the years. And earlier in his career, he was one of those guys threw 98 miles an hour and had no idea where the ball was going. Big moment here. The Orioles with a chance to tie the game in the 7th. Man at third. 2 balls. Berenguer has truly found a home here in Minnesota, however. You see the score, 3-2 Minnesota. Berenguer 8-1, 8-4, 9-3. This year 5-1. He's been a winner in this role, set up man, middle relief. The 2-0 delivery. Strike on the outside.
That makes it even harder to understand why anybody could complain about the way that Tom Kelly has used him. It sounds like he's been using him perfectly.
Kelly may know a little more about it than Juan thinks.
He's doing it. He's been using him perfectly.
You see that defense now. The second baseman way out in right field again, but Hrbek right along the line at first. Gaetti protecting the line at third. Swing and a miss. Came right after him with a fastball. 2-2.
Well, the one thing that Berenguer is not afraid to do is challenge you because he has a good fastball. And especially when he gets it up, it's a real good fastball. See that? You see Tettleton dropping down. So that's the danger of standing straight up. When you drop, you lower your head as well. You see the long stride lowered his head below the ball. 2-2
pitch. And Tettleton laid off that one. Templeton will strike out a lot, but he'll also get a lot of walks. Orsolak is on deck. Bergier trying to hold on to this one for Roy Smith, who is the pitcher of record. 6 pretty good innings for Roy. Strike 3 called in the inside corner, and does Bergier love that one? Yeah. El lanzador maravilloso. 3-2 Twins. Back at the Metrodome, we're into the last of the 7th inning. 31,000 plus here in attendance, taking their 7th inning stretch. And the Twins are coming up with the power. Puckett, Hrbek, and Gaetti against that man, the new Baltimore pitcher, right-hander Curt Schilling. Just up out of the minor leagues. He pitched here Friday and got a save in the Orioles' first game victory. So here's Schilling. And you see he pitched well on Friday night. Kirby Puckett, 2 for 3, stands in. Check swing, strike called. It's 0-1. 3-2 Minnesota leading.
You know, Kirby Puckett won his first batting title last year, John, but the Minnesota Twins have a history of batting title winners.
That's up the middle, his 3rd straight hit. Yeah, they've got kind of a lock on that the last 25 years or so.
Yeah. Tony Oliva, who was their hitting coach, he had 3 batting titles and would have had more, except for he had gimpy knees and he did not get to play his full career out. And of course, Rod Carew won 7 batting titles. So they have a history of batting titles here in Minnesota.
Tough Tony O.
One of the great hitters of all times. If his knees would not have gone out, who knows how much he would have hit.
Here's Hrbek, speaking of guys who can hit. One of the Tony Oliva pupils, Kent Hrbek. Tonight he's grounded out, walked, and then he hit a booming 3-run homer in the 5th. All of the Twins runs scoring on that one swing. 3-2 Twins ahead, 7th inning. The pitch from Schilling. It's gone but foul. Oh, what a shot. That one is heading for parts unknown. If the upper deck hadn't interrupted it, maybe down into Dallas.
Well, it's a long foul, but it's a good spot for Schilling. It's up and in, and Hrbek can't keep that ball foul. There's no way he can't keep the ball fair if you get it in under his hands like that.
Ran away, ball 2, 2-1 to Hrbek.
But he better not move that pitch out over the plate because he can keep it fair.
Well, it was just a foul and just a strike, but it was breathtaking. Aesthetically pleasing.
And it scared the breath out of Schilling, I'm sure. Especially if you're a young rookie and you look at something like that.
His heart may have skipped a beat.
Yeah, they don't do that in the minor leagues, he said.
2-1 delivery. Popped him up.
That's a good spot, right under the hands. You can pitch him right there all day, but you got to get it there.
Hewlett grabs it for the putout. Puckett holding on at first.
We talked about Gary Gaetti, and we have a in the zone shot of Gary, and this is where you see how to pitch him. See this line right here? That's the inside corner of the plate. He will chase the ball off the plate inside. Out here is where to pitch him. You got to stay out of the middle of the plate with Gary. But you can pitch him off the plate inside.
Here's Gaetti. Hasn't shaved in a few days. He's 1 for 3. Runner at first, 1 out. We're in the 7th. Down the 3rd base line. Worthington to Hewlett, 1. Back to first, off the bag. Kirby Puckett had something to do with that, I think. With Hewlett not being able to complete that would-be double play. 2 down.
Schilling made a perfect pitch. He threw the ball down and away with the curveball, and Gaetti hit the ground ball. The 3rd baseman Worthington. Watch Worthington. He goes across to Hewlett. Hewlett tries to come across the bag, but Puckett did not slide. It was a tough double play because his rhythm was off.
Here's Brian Harper, the catcher. He's 0 for 3. 300 hitter. Despite going 0 for 3 tonight. 3-2 Minnesota. We've had 20 hits in this game. We've had 3 home runs, but just the 5 runs. Game filled with base runners. That's into medium deep center. But that's again the wrong place to hit it in this ballpark, unless you're Kent Hrbek. 1 hit, 1 left for the Twins. Schilling gets through it. 3-2. Minnesota leading Baltimore. Now the Budweiser storyline of the ball game. Twins leading 3-2. A lot of hits. Pete Harnish and Roy Smith, they kept the score down despite a lot of trouble spots. Ripken and Finley with solo homers for the Orioles, and Kent Hrbek, the big blow, a 3-run shot for the Twins, which has them leading even now as we go to the 8th inning. That fella is predicting that one day he'll hit a home run out there to that right field porch for the Twins.
Not just a homer, John, a 3-run homer.
Yeah. And here come the Baltimore Orioles now. Joe Orsulak leading it off against Juan Berenguer. Orsulak 1 for 3 in the game. He'll be followed by Cal Ripken and then Craig Worthington. The Twins are again protecting the foul lines on the infield against the extra base hit. There's a drive toward that porch in right field. Larkin running out of room. It is off the curtain. He'll have to go chase the carom. It is a stand-up double for Orsulak. Does that remind you of Fenway a little bit in left field? Just a high, lazy fly ball. There's just not much room out there.
Well, you run out of room very quickly in straightaway right field here at the Metrodome. It was a high pitch from Berenguer. It's probably a high screwball or a changeup. That's a high breaking ball. And you can see him go back to the wall, and there's not a lot he can do. Larkin plays the ball perfectly. And he holds Orsulak to a double.
So the Orioles down by a run, but they've got the possible tying run in scoring position. Nobody out. Here's Ripken, 2 for 3 with a home run in this game. Strike one.
The question is, what do you do here if you're Cal Ripken? Or what does Frank Robinson want you to do? He has to know that already. Frank and he has probably had conversations about this several times. The point is, do you want him to shoot the ball toward the right side and move the runner along, or do you want him to try to drive in the run? Most of your managers, like for the big guys, they're RBI guys, to go ahead and produce the run.
Into right field. Orsulak held up for a moment, but I think he's still going to score as Larkin has to go deep into the corner to pick it up. It's all tied up. And Joe, he went to the right side with it.
And that's the best of both worlds.
And got him home. Cal was 3 for 26 against Berenguer lifetime before that hit.
Well, I couldn't believe how Al Newman at second base was playing Ripken. He was playing way over by second base, which gave Ripken an even bigger hole to shoot for on the right side. And the pitch is away, and Ripken is going the other way all the way. He's driving the ball to right field, and Orsulak still has time to come in to score. That's a real long single. That's not a short single.
So just like that, the score is all tied up here at the Metrodome. 3-3. Ball 1 to Worthington. Now the bullpens are both busy. We're in the 8th inning. Each team's closer is getting ready. Out in left field, the Minnesota right-hander Rick Aguilera, who has become the heir apparent to Jeff Reardon and is doing a heck of a job. And there's Greg Olson, the Orioles' fine closer. They're both ready to see some action in this one.
Well, what Tom Kelly wanted from Berenguer was to get through the 8th inning, and I'm sure he would have started the 9th inning with Aguilera. That's what a lot of your managers are doing now. You have to have setup men for your closer, and you don't want your closer to pitch more than 1 inning to get a save.
2 balls, no strikes to Craig Worthington. That is into right center field, and a base hit. Rounding second, heading for third is Ripken, and he'll make it easily. The throw cut off by Newman. Ripken had it in his mind that he was going to third all the way. 3 straight hits for the Orioles now. Still nobody out. Joe, they came into the inning trailing. Now they're on the verge of taking the lead.
Well, Berenguer is getting the ball up, but not up enough. He's got a real effective high fastball, but he's getting all these pitches about belt high, and they're driving them the other way. Watch this pitch. It's not high enough to be an effective fastball. It's a little above the belt, and Worthington just drives it into right center field.
And he also drives that man into the showers. Berenguer is gone, and Aguilera comes in a real tight jam. First and third, nobody out, and we'll be back. We're at the top of the 8th inning at the Metrodome. John Miller, Joe Morgan with you, and we've got a tie ball game with Rick Aguilera in for the Twins, but the Orioles threatening to untie it. Joe?
Yeah, they've got him in the jam here, and they've got a couple of guys coming up who have actually had some success against Aguilera. Bob Melvin is 3 for 5 in his career, and Mike Devereaux is 1 for 3. They're going to pinch run at first base with Donnell Nixon. He's going to pinch run for Worthington.
Saw him in the World Series last year with the San Francisco Giants.
Did a great job for the Giants. I was surprised that they let him go. There's the other runner, Cal Ripken Jr. on the right, Cal Ripken Sr. giving him instructions.
Just like he has
base
for all these many years.
Right. They're playing the infield in, the Twins.
And Nixon a threat to steal, the runner at first base. Ball one to Melvin.
When you play the infield in like that, the balls hit a one-hopper at one of the infielders, they may take the double play. If it's not a one-hopper, they will come to the plate and get Ripken.
A ball and a strike.
The play for the runner at third base, if the ball's hit sharply on the ground, is to head for the plate. I don't know if the Orioles will play it that way, but that's the normal play, to stay out of the double play. But if it's not a double play ground ball, then you don't go.
And Melvin hits double plays. He's not a very fast runner. Off the fists, and now Aguilera in on the count, 1-2. The Orioles have not been very efficient in these kinds of situations. Getting runners home from third, hitting in the clutch. And their downfall this year.
Right, I think that's one thing that Frank Robinson told me before the ballgame. He said the reason they're not contending like they were last year is because they're one hit in clutch situations away, one good pitch in clutch situations. They're just one of everything away, one good defensive play, etc. They're just one away from everything in clutch situations. Aguilera tried to pick Nixon off first base. You make that move toward third base and then throw over to first. And that's something I've never been able to understand, how that's not a balk, because you're not supposed to do anything to deceive the runner. I don't know what it is if you're not trying to deceive the runner at first base by stepping toward third and then trying to get him at first.
Spoken like a true base stealer.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely deceiving the runner.
There goes Nixon. It's a foul tip, but a held for strike three, and Nixon gets the stolen base. Now, if that ball had been dropped, Melvin would still be up there, but Nixon would have to go back to first.
Well, it's a high fastball from Aguilera, and he pitched Melvin very well. He stayed in tight on him. Now he comes way in with the fastball, and Melvin can't do anything with it. But Brian Harper doesn't do anything with it either. Nixon had a good jump at first, and it was going to be tough to throw him out, but I think you have to throw the ball someplace.
That is Nixon's fifth steal in 5 tries since becoming an Oriole just about 2 weeks ago. Cal Ripken at third, Nixon at second. Now the Orioles are going to go to their bench with 2 men in scoring position. They've got the left-handed hitter, Greg Walker, the only left-handed hitter on the bench, and he's coming out now to bat for the right-handed hitting Mike Devereaux. Another weakness for the Orioles, Joe, as we see Kelly head for the mound now, has been a lack of any kind of left-handed hitting in the ball club. They have very few. In fact, he's one of only 4 left-handed hitters on the entire roster.
Well, that is very unusual, because what you try to do as a team is have a couple of left-handers coming off the bench, even 2-to-1 over their right-handers, because most of your closers, most of your late-inning relievers are right-handed. So you'd rather have a couple of left-handers that come off the bench than you would right-handers. But of course, there are some hitters who come off the bench who can handle both left-handed and right-handed pitching.
This is the veteran Greg Walker. He had some fine years with the Chicago White Sox, and once was a hated rival of the Orioles back in the early 80s when the 2 ball clubs played each other in the championship series.
And they're playing the infield in as well now as they did before. They're playing the infield in. That means they have to go to the plate or just take the one guy at first base. When you play the infield in on this type of AstroTurf, you are really giving away a lot, because the ball doesn't have to be hit hard to get through this infield, because it's very quick.
3-3 tie. That's foul and out of play. All right, you're Greg Walker. What are you looking for here? What are you trying to do? What's your plan?
Well, first of all, you try to get the ball in the air. You do not want to hit a ground ball to one of these infielders. And until you get 2 strikes, that should be your objective. That's Cal Ripken Sr. over at third base. But that should be your objective. The first 2 strikes should be trying to get the ball to the outfield in the air. Now, after you get 2 strikes, you just want to hit the ball hard someplace. And if you do that with the infield in and you hit it on the ground, it usually will go through the infield.
3-3 tie. The pitch. Ball 2. It is 2 balls and 1 strike to Greg Walker. Crowd very quiet. 31,785, but they're all kind of holding their breath right now.
The worst thing in the world would not be for him to walk Greg Walker. I mean, if you try to pitch him tough, you try to get the strikeout, you pitch to his weakness, but if you miss, that's okay. You got the bases loaded, and then you try to get a double play on the next guy.
Looked like Walker thought he had a pitch to drive to the outfield there, but he didn't get it.
Well, you look for a ball, you know, belt high and above, but it also depends on who's throwing out there. Some guys throwing 90+ mile-an-hour fastball, they get it up, and you can't handle it. And Aguilera has a good fastball. You know, look at Frank Robinson. He was a great hitter in this type of situation.
And he can't
do anything about it.
And he can't comprehend why his ball club's been so poor in these situations.
I've talked to him about this, you know, when he was a manager for the Giants, and he just doesn't understand it either.
2-2 pitch. Foul into the batter's box.
That was a good pitch by Aguilera. He went with him after him with the high fastball a couple of times, and he tried to throw the sinker. So if he does hit it, he'd hit it on the ground. Now I think you'd see him try to go back up and in to get the strikeout.
The Orioles had 12 hits in this game. They've hit 2 home runs in the game. They put 13 men on base, but they have 3 runs. Twins can tell the same kind of a story. The pitch. Ball 3. 3-2 to Walker.
He tried to go inside, but he wasn't up and in. He was going just to try to get the ground ball. There's Tom Kelly. He's trying to help Aguilera get out of this jam.
Well, Aguilera has gotten Kelly and the Twins out of enough jams this year. He's been outstanding. On deck, another left-handed hitter, Steve Finley. Runners at second and third. The pitch on the way. Struck him out on the split finger. Chased a bad ball, did Walker. 2 down.
If you're a hitter and you're hitting in this situation, you have to forget about the count, because a pitcher will throw you any pitch in this situation. He's got a base open. The count was 3-2, and I think Walker felt like that was a fastball. But that's what the split finger does to you. It appears to be a fastball when the guy releases it, but once it approaches the plate, the bottom falls out of it.
Now the Orioles, who had the runner at third with nobody out, have not been able to get him home. Melvin struck out. Walker has struck out. That leaves it to Finley.
You could also see a little bit of disgust on Frank Robinson's face in the background there when we showed you a shot of Walker. They're going to walk Finley intentionally.
Well, you've got a right-handed hitter on deck, and you have no other left-handed hitters left on the bench.
Right, so they're going to pitch to Hewlett in this situation. And I think it's a good thing to do anyway, because it also puts a force out at each base. You can force a runner out any place, and that takes a little bit of the pressure off of your defensive infield when they have a play at each base. You know, when the runners are second and third, 2 down, it's a tough play to go all the way across the diamond from the hole at shortstop or deep in the hole at third. If you have a runner at first, you can force someone out at second. Makes it a short throw.
Well, also with the bases loaded, the Orioles have been suffering from the bases loaded blues this year. I mean, when you were a hitter, Joe, when you came up with the bases loaded, that was your spot, wasn't it?
Well, I think you have to approach it properly, and that's what I say about discussions with Frank Robinson. What you have to do is go to the plate with a thought pattern in mind. First, the first couple of strikes are mine. After that, I have to hit the pitcher's pitch. So what you do is you try to get the guy to give you a pitch that you can handle and drive into the outfield until you get 2 strikes. But when you get that pitch, you can't miss it. If you're sitting there with an open mind without any game plan, it's awfully tough. You end up swinging at a lot of bad pitches.
The Orioles' team batting average with the bases loaded is 184. Bases loaded, 2 down. A 3-3 tie. Ball 1. There's Cal Ripken. He's the runner at third. He drove in the tying run in this inning with a single. Donnell Nixon, the pinch runner. He's at second. He stole second base. And Steve Finley, who was walked intentionally at first. The pitch. Foul back. Doing the rising fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike to Tim Hewlett.
Well, Hewlett, I thought, did a good job there. He made him get the ball up where he thought he could handle it. And he had a good swing at it. He just missed it. But that's the difference. When you're in a bases loaded situation and you get a pitch to hit, you have to hit it.
Hewlett's a veteran. He goes up there with a plan. He's done well for the Orioles, both last year and this year when he's been healthy. Bases loaded, 2 down. All 3 of the runners ready to go in anything. A run is in. It's the Orioles 3 and the Twins 3. perhaps the game hanging in the balance here. Now Hewlett, tired of waiting for Aguilera, and he backs away, and now Harper will go out and talk this over with Aguilera. They have a little difference of opinion here in what to do with Hewlett.
Well, I don't think they have difference of opinion. I think they want to make sure that they're on the same exact plane. They may both be thinking fastball, but the point is, where are we going to throw this fastball? Or they may be thinking breaking ball and make sure you don't hang it.
All right, try it again. All three of the runners with their leads, and now again time taken. Hewlett backs away. A 3-3 tie in the 8th.
Well, I think that was really Aguilera stepping off, because Harper went directly to the outside corner, and it looked like Aguilera changed his mind about what he wanted to throw.
Here it comes. Strike 2. A fastball. That low fastball. The low strike zone. Now Hewlett in a hole. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
So that's what makes the split finger so tough now. That pitch was a low fastball and it just stayed right there. Now if he starts a ball in the same spot and it's the split finger, Hewlett will have to go after it because it looks like the same pitch.
Aguilera set. Here comes. It was the split finger, and he struck him out. Aguilera strikes out the side, and he keeps that runner at third base. The bases loaded Blues hit the Orioles again. 3 men left on. They get the tying run, though. Last of the 8th coming up. 3-3.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, brought to you by Daihatsu. Since 1907, the small car specialist from Japan. By MCI, let us show you. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. Remember, know when to say when.
Sunset in the Twin Cities, boating on Lake Calhoun. And there are lakes aplenty in this part of the country. Summertime, we're following the summer game here at the Metrodome. Changes for the Orioles, there are many. Steve Finley has moved from right field into center field now. Brad Cummins goes into the game to play right field. A new third baseman has come in, Rene Gonzalez. And a new pitcher, the Orioles closer, the big man out of the bullpen, Greg Olson, just 2 years removed from the College World Series. He had an amazing rookie season, and so far this year he's been even better. First man up, Paul Sorrento, the rookie, and he takes ball 1. Now the Orioles, as we see Sorrento 1 for 3 in the game. The Orioles are guarding those foul lines at both third base and first base. The Twins have the last third of their batting order coming up. Swing and a miss on a fastball. 1-1. Joe, Greg Olson.
Well, Olson, as you mentioned, he's had a better year this year than last year, and Frank Robinson told me before the ballgame he was going to pitch tonight because he has not pitched for a couple of days, and tomorrow is another off day.
Oh, look at that curveball.
And Frank Robinson also told me that he has one of the best curveballs he's ever seen.
Well, when he first came up, when they first signed him out of college, they said, well, he's got a Blyleven curveball. That seems to be the measure. And in this case, he has delivered that. He throws it hard and harder. And throws another one there. Did Sorrento check? I don't think so. They throw to first. What's the call? It is a strikeout. Yes, there is one away.
Well, you talked about the woes the Orioles have had this year with bases loaded. Aguilera strikes out the side. He strikes out the hitter here, but he set him up with the pitch before. Fastball inside on the outside corner. Then he came back with a split finger. And you can see Aguilera's reaction there as he came in with the bases loaded and he struck out the side, striking him out and leaving the runner at third.
Quite a performance by Aguilera. Here's Moses, and that's ball 1, the low fastball. Again, the Orioles continue to guard the foul lines. Joe, a strategy with which you're in agreement?
Well, it depends on the hitter. I just think that if a guy percentage-wise can pull the ball in the corners, that's okay. But you don't just do it because it's late in the ball game. If a guy can pull the ball, then you guard the line. If he's not a pull hitter, then I don't think you guard the line. But they're sitting right on the line.
And I think that's pretty much where the Orioles always do it.
Well, Frank Robinson is kind of from the old school, and I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way.
Finley, the center fielder, in left center for out number 2. Moses 1 for 4.
I think there's just a matter of opinion of, you know, do you want to do it or not do it? I don't know if there is definitely a right way and a wrong way.
Here's Greg Gagne. He's 1 for 3.
Like so many other things in baseball, it's not always just cut and dry that you do something one way. That's what makes managers different. That's what makes players different. They all have their own way of trying to get the same thing accomplished.
I remember in the 1987 World Series when the Twins played the Cardinals, and there was talk about Whitey Herzog employing this strategy. He was asked about it, so why did you do that? And they get Todd Worrell on the mound, a hard thrower. And he said, well, I play my defense that way because that's the way we've been doing it in baseball for 100 years.
That surprises me about Herzog, because Herzog has been an innovator in a lot of different situations. And I've always said that, you know, I didn't necessarily agree that you do things by the book all the time, because I didn't know the guy who wrote the book. You know, things have changed. Baseball has changed a lot since 1902 or John McGraw's day, etc.
Some people think Whitey wrote it.
Well, he wrote part of it.
That's foul and out of play. The count, 2 balls and a strike to Greg Gagne. Don't forget, after the ball game, we'll be taking you to Sports Center with Robin Roberts and Dan Patrick, with all of the highlights of the day in sports. A conversation with Roger Clemens, highlights from the Mets and Reds confrontation at Shea Stadium, a complete baseball wrap-up, all the golf and everything in the world of sports. That's up the middle, base hit for Gagne. The 12th hit for the Twins. Each team with 12 hits, but just 3 runs for each club.
Well, they have had a lot of scoring opportunities, but as we've seen, only Hrbek delivered for the Twins, hitting a 3-run homer. And the Orioles have stranded a lot of guys in scoring position tonight.
The Orioles have left a grand total of 11 men on base, and the Twins have left 9 men on base. 2 down, runner at first. That's Greg Gagne. Here's Newman. Now Olson is very poor at holding runners close. You can get a great jump against Greg Olson.
Well, not only that, a guy that's his best pitch is a curveball. It's going to be awfully tough for the catcher to throw a guy out, because the curveball breaks down, and the toughest pitch for a catcher to throw on is a ball low. Catchers like the high fastball to be able to throw out the speedy base runners, and a curveball pitcher doesn't use the high fastball that often.
Now Newman's been on base 3 times. He's had 2 singles and a walk. 3-3, last of the 8th. Each team has its closer in the game, and each closer is outstanding. Whoa! That was really a pitch out.
Well, they were thinking along with Tom Kelly and trying to figure out when he was going to send Gagne. Melvin jumps outside, but Olson almost throws it over his head.
That's not the way they teach it.
No, Gagne has not been very successful at stealing bases either. He's stolen 3, but he's been caught 5 times.
And that's outside. Ball 2. 2-0 the count. Gonzalez still playing right next to the bag at third.
This is a perfect hit and run situation. If you don't want to send the guy, you can put him in motion and hope that Al Newman hits a ball in the gap someplace and he can score. But it's also not a bad play to send him, because if he's thrown out, you got your leadoff hitter leading off the bottom of the 9th, the top of your order.
He's not running. Ball 3. Gene Larkin is on deck for the Twins. And after Larkin, then you get into Puckett, Gaetti, Hrbek, the big 3 of the Twins. 3-0. Olson has not pitched in a game since last Wednesday. And he walks him on 4 pitches. He gives the Twins a man in scoring position free of charge. And now Larkin comes up.
I think that's one of the reasons Frank Robinson wanted to pitch him, because, you know, you want your guy out there, you know, every couple of days. You said he hasn't pitched since Wednesday. You want him out there just to stay sharp. And the thing that goes first is your control when you don't go to the mound for a few days, if you are a closer.
Gene Larkin, the hitter. He is 1 for 4. His one hit started a 3-run Minnesota rally in the 5th inning, which so far has been the Twins' only scoring of the game. 2 on, 2 out. Last of the 8th. A 3-3 tie. Olsen to the plate. Starts him with a curve for a called strike. There's Gagne. He hit a 2-out single. He's at second. And there is Albert D. Newman telling Wayne Terwilliger, hey, what? Me worry? 0-1 the count to Larkin. Kirby Puckett would be next. The Orioles no longer playing the exaggerated defense. They're in normal depth now, not guarding the foul lines. 1 strike pitch in the dirt with a curveball. Olsen, in his first go-round in September of '88, just a couple of months out of college, gave up a home run to Steve Balboni. Since that time, he's faced more than 550 major league batters, and nobody has hit a home run against him in that time except a fellow named Dwight Evans of Boston. He's done it twice, but 8 days ago in Boston, he beat Olsen with a 2-run homer in the last of the 10th. The 1-1 pitch, very high, and Olsen looking none too sharp here, Joe.
Well, again, it could be the layoff, and that's why Robinson was concerned. Al Jackson's going to come out and talk to him. You know, if you're a hitter in this situation, Gene Larkin, you have to think about what is Greg Olson's best pitch, and his best pitch is his curveball. So you have to figure that 2 out of every 3 pitches you're going to see the curveball. He's not going to get beat with his second or third best pitch by throwing you a fastball in the middle of the plate. He figures that if he throws the curveball, even if it's in the middle of the plate, he still has a chance to fool you with the speed or the break of the pitch. So if you're Larkin, or if I'm Larkin in this situation, I would have been looking for the curveball, the first pitch, which he got, and I would still be looking for the curveball right now, 2-1.
Sunday night baseball from the Metrodome. We're in the last of the 8th inning in a tie ball game, 3-3, Baltimore and Minnesota. The Twins with 2 men on, 2 men out, and the 2-ball 1-strike pitch to Larkin is on the way. Fastball foul back to the screen.
See, I would have 2-2 now. Well, that looked like a high fastball. I probably wouldn't have swung at it anyway, but I definitely would not have been looking fastball in that situation. But see, with 2 strikes, you can't look for a pitch anymore. Now you have to hit what you see.
Olsen's got the good enough fastball, 91, 92 miles an hour. And that great curveball, if he's getting them over, he can be devastating. 2-2 pitch. There's the curve, but it's in the dirt. Breaking for third is Gagne, and he'll make it easily. Holding at first was Newman.
Well, he goes with his best pitch, but he's overthrowing the curveball. He's trying to throw it too hard. He's trying to make a sharp curveball. He wants to get the strikeout, and he throws the 60-foot curveball instead of the 60-foot 6-inch job. And there you go. Bounces in front, and there's nothing Melvin can do as Gagne goes over to third base.
Now, if he throws that same kind of a pitch, the go-ahead run could score. Runner is at first and third, 2 down. There goes Newman from first. Strike 3 called to Gene Larkin. Olsen gets him looking, and Puckett has to head out to the outfield. He'll bat leading off in the 9th. We go to the 9th inning. Milligan, Tettleton, and Orsolak coming up, 3-3. We're indoors at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, and Sunday night baseball. We're heading right into the 9th inning. Each team with 3 runs and 12 hits in this game, and lots of chances, Joe.
Well, if you're the hitter, he's thrown you 3 curveballs and missed with all 3. You have to sit on the fastball 3-2. You have to look for the fastball and try to adjust to the curve. You cannot look for a curveball and hit a 90-plus mile-an-hour fastball, and you can't take strike 3 in that situation with the winning runner on base.
Here's Randy Milligan. Now, the Orioles had their 3, 4, and 5 hitters coming up in this inning. Milligan, Tettleton, and Orsolak. Milligan 1 for 3 with a walk. Facing Rick Aguilera, both out of the Mets organization. That's a called strike, 1-1. Milligan has only faced Aguilera a couple of times and had a single against him in 2 trips.
Of the 2 pitchers who are closers and who will probably pitch an inning, 1 more inning apiece at least, Aguilera is the sharpest at this particular time. He has all of his pitches working. The good fastball, the split finger, and the slider. And right now, Olson, that last inning at least, he was struggling with his curveball.
Olson's been in and out with his curveball the last 2-3 weeks. Some games he's got the good one. Other games it's not been there for him. And for instance, when Evans hit the game-winning home run 8 days ago in Boston, he did not have the curveball.
That's the difference. Evans is a smart hitter. I mean, he knows if the guy can't get his curveball over, what is he going to throw me? Some guys continue to look for the curveball, even though if he gets it over, they're not going to hit it anyway. Well,
that's a good point. I mean, Larkin, if Olson snapped off a beauty, he's not going to hit it.
He's not going to hit it anyway. That's the point. You know, I learned that from Rusty Staub a long time ago. He said, don't look for something you can't hit. So I agree with that.
Pitch on the way, his slider in the dirt. 2-2 to Milligan.
But I would see why Dwight Evans, you know, being a smart hitter and a veteran, knowing, you know, pitching patterns. If a guy can't get a pitch over, you have to look for the other pitch.
Now in the last of this 9th inning, the Twins will also have their 3, 4, and 5 hitters up. 2-2 pitch, grounded foul. So the Orioles would be well advised to get a run here, because when you've got Puckett, Hrbek, and Gaetti coming up, and Olson's not looking all that sharp, better to have a little bit of a cushion here. Two and 2 to Milligan. Twins guarding the foul lines against Randy. Pitch on the way. Ball 3. In the Baltimore bullpen, Jeff Ballard. He was their biggest winner last year, the left-hander. This year only 1 and 9. There's Jeff. And now in the bullpen, they're going to go with 4 men in the rotation at least until the All-Star break.
He was 9 and 1 at this time last year, and he's turned it around. 1 and 9.
He started 9 and 1. Yeah. Strike 3 called to Milligan. Well, that low pitch has been called a strike time after time in this ball game.
Well, as you mentioned, they're calling the low pitch, so if you're the hitter, you have to swing at it. Here's a 3-2 pitch, but it goes back to something you said at the beginning of the ball game. You know, you've got Milligan and a few guys who draw bases on balls. There are times when a base on balls is okay, and maybe this is one of those times. But you also have a guy that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, Milligan, and you're on the road. You swing the bat. Or I should say, you have to be more aggressive. But I'm sure he thought the pitch was low.
So Milligan is down, and here's Tettleton, 1 for 4. He struck out 2 straight times. Aguilera has struck out everybody that he's retired in this game. He's gotten 4 outs, all on strikes. Ball 2, 2-0. There it is, an inning and a third. That one walk was an intentional one. Remember, when he came in, there were runners at first and third, and there was nobody out. And then, as he struck out Melvin, Nixon stole second. He had second and third and 1 out, and he struck out Walker. And then with the bases loaded after the intentional walk, he struck out Hewlett. Quite a performance. 3-0 now to Tettleton. He seems to be very cautious here with the left-handed power hitter and the short porch in right field.
Well, you've got Tettleton and Milligan and Orsolak. All those guys can hit the ball out of the ballpark. So you have to be careful with them. You do not want to get a pitch in the zone that they can jerk the ball.
The outfield is very deep all the way around, as you would expect this time of the game. 3-3, 9th inning. The pitch very high. He wanted nothing to do with Mickey Tettleton there. He'll start over with a fresh count against Joe Orsolak. Orsolak is 2 for 4. His double in the 8th inning off the canvas in right field started the rally in the 8th that tied the ball game. Here's Orsolak. He's the one guy in this Orioles club who's really had a long history against Aguilera. Orsolak formerly in the National League with the Pirates. He's faced him a lot, but a lot of the time Aguilera prevailed. Orsolak 5 hits in 22 lifetime at bats against Aguilera. Big hole on the right side of the infield. Hrbek is going to hold Tettleton on the bag. 1 out. Foul ball. 3-3, 9th inning. We're here right till the end and right after We'll go to Sports Center coming up right after the ball game.
John, I have a theory on that, computer printouts about what a guy's hitting against another guy. See, I don't think those printouts have any meaning until you get about 20 at-bats against the guy, because, your first couple of at-bats, you could be swinging the bat poorly and the guy just gets you out. Or you could be hot and the guy, you get some base hits. So until you get about 20 at-bats, I don't think those computer printouts have a lot of meaning. I mean, you only face the guy one time, you get a base hit. You know you're not going to hit 1,000 off of him, but you did at that particular time. But I think once you get up around 20 at-bats, as Orsulak has against Aguilera, I think that's a better reading.
0-2 the count to Orsulak. The pitch. There's the split finger, but it's way outside. 1-2 the count. Well, it's a tool that managers have at their disposal, and maybe get a line on, maybe a little edge in a certain spot.
Well, I think it's a guide that you can use. I don't say it's not important, but it's a guide more than a determining factor as far as I'm concerned.
1-2 pitch, and he just got a piece of it. Orsulak's tough to strike out. 3-3 ninth inning. Big crowd at the Metrodome. Twins trying to get the month of July started on an up note after a miserable June. The Orioles trying to climb back into the pennant race in the American League East, where you can struggle for 2-3 weeks and still get hot and get right back into it. Although the Red Sox won today, and so did the Blue Jays, the top two teams in the division. 1 out. Tentleton at first. 1-2 to Joe Orsulak. And it's ball 2. Orsulak's a kind of a manager's dream player. He plays all around the outfield. He plays hard. He works at the game. And of course, he's a good hitter, but if you sit him out for a few days, you say you're a role player, you're a platoon player. Orsulak says, well, just tell me what you want from me, and that's what I'll go do. Never complains.
Well, show me a guy that's happy to be in the big leagues, and he'll usually do what the team wants him to do.
2-2 the count. Aguilera tries it again against Orsulak. Struck him out.
Well, Aguilera has had the good fastball all night, and with 2 strikes, if you're the hitter Orsulak, you have to protect against the split finger, and if you wait a split second too long, the fastball's right by you, and this is what Aguilera does. Good fastball, good motion. He hides the ball pretty well. You don't pick it up until he releases it.
So that leaves it to Cal Ripken. And Cal has gone 3 for 4 tonight with a homer and 2 runs batted in. He drove in the tying run with a single in the 8th. Strike 1. By the way, Cal has not committed an error tonight as he tries to set the all-time record for most consecutive errorless games by a shortstop in a single season. That's a fly ball to left, but it looks routine for Moses. And the Twins will have the big sluggers coming up. Puckett, Hrbek, and Gaetti. We go to the last of the 9th inning. It's still tied. Baltimore 3, Minnesota 3. The Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome is the scene, and the Minnesota Twins now are sending up the big hitters against Greg Olson to try and win this one. Last of the 9th inning. It's the Baltimore Orioles 3, the Minnesota Twins 3. Cal Ripken hoping that he'll have to go extra innings to get that all-time consecutive errorless game record. Kirby Puckett, he's got plenty of fans here as he tries to get the Twins started. He is 3 for 4. Olson on the mound for the Orioles, delivers, curveball, ball 1. And again, you pointed it out earlier, Joe, having problems getting that pitch over. That's his big pitch.
And see, a guy like Puckett, the smart hitter, will sit on the fastball right here at this particular pitch.
There's a fastball, but it's outside. 2-0 the count. The outfield is very deep. The infield is all spread out, protecting the foul lines.
And if you're the hitter, you got him 2-0, you have to sit on the fastball now again until he throws the curveball for a strike.
2-0 delivery. Ball 3. You know, one problem for Olson now, when he's not getting the curveball over, as you see shades of the '87 playoffs and World Series, they're waving those homer hankies again here at the Metrodome. Olson has had more problems getting his fastball over historically than his curveball. Gets that one over. 3-1 to Kirby Puckett.
Let's see, it's still a fastball situation for Puckett. And Puckett has proven through the years that if he wants to go for power, he can. And this is a power situation with a 3-1 fastball.
And he walks. A leadoff walk to Kirby Puckett, and now Hrbek comes up. Well, we know this guy can go deep at any time. He went deep in the 5th inning, a 3-run homer.
Well, see, again, Olson is walking that same tightrope that Harnish was walking, because if you become a one-pitch pitcher against good hitters, they're going to hit you. I mean, if he has to throw fastballs to throw strikes, Hrbek and Gaetti, these guys are going to hit him. He needs his curveball in order to be successful through the middle of this lineup.
Curveball, there's a strike.
Right, he needed that pitch for a strike.
What is it? When you can't control a pitch all of a sudden, is it the grip? What is it?
Well, a lot of times you lose your rhythm. I think he was trying to throw it too hard. That was not a real hard curveball there. That was a good curveball. The other ones, I think he was just overthrowing them, trying to make them break too sharply.
That one broke sharply and into the dirt.
Right. See, if you overthrow it, it's going to break sharp, but if the hitter doesn't chase it, it's going to be a ball.
Is that Olson then trying to make the perfect pitch?
Well, I think he is, because you're looking at guys who can really hurt him. But see, he's got a position now. He can throw the fastball if he gets it in on his hands or gets it in the right spot. But if he was behind in the count, he couldn't throw him the fastball.
The 1-1 pitch. Curveball swung on and missed. That one dropped out of sight.
Again, that was a ball, though. It was not a strike. And because he had one strike on him, he chased it a little bit.
Hrbek looking fastball there.
I think he probably was. But see, also what happens is, if you're a good curveball pitcher and you're ahead in the count or even, they will swing at that pitch. If you're behind in the count, they're not going to chase that curveball breaking in the dirt.
Now it's 1-2. Here it comes. Another curveball, and he just got a piece of it. A ball and 2 strikes.
And that was a great curveball right there. I mean, that ball exploded when it got to the plate.
Greg Olson, he's had 15 saves and 17 chances. His ERA 1.13. 40 innings, only 23 hits allowed. 38 strikeouts, 13 walks. He's had 2 strikeouts in this game. Puckett back to first.
Well, they want to make sure that Puckett doesn't steal second base while he's concentrating on Hrbek. But there's always the danger when you're throwing that good curveball that it's going to bounce, and that would allow Puckett to go to second base anyway.
Baltimore 3, Minnesota 3. Last of the 9th. Nobody out. The 1-2 pitch. Fastball, line drive, base hit, right center field. Puckett to second, and he'll hold there as Cummins grabs the ball and throws into Ripken. He must have thought Hrbek was thinking curve.
No, what happened there is Greg Olson shook twice. He said yes to the fastball, and he said yes again to the location. See, I knew he was going to throw a fastball because he did that. And Ken Hrbek, if I know it, maybe he knows it too. See, if you say yes, that means okay to the pitch, and you say yes again to the location. That's what he did. And if you say yes once, usually that means okay, you can throw the curveball or the fastball. You don't throw it to a spot. But when you say yes twice, it's also setting up location. And you only try to locate the fastball. You don't just throw the fastball over the plate. You just try to throw a strike with the curveball. Will they bunt is the question here. I think it's a bunting situation, but I'm not Tom Kelly.
Ball 1, that curveball slipped out of his hand. Well, on the other hand, Gaetti is your man. He's been doing it for years.
But he also, a ground ball here could be devastating because it gets you out of the inning. But also, now that he's missed with the breaking ball, I think you have to assume that the count goes to Gaetti's favor. And Gaetti is 2 for 4 lifetime off of Olson.
Puckett at second, Hrbek at first. Olson not looking very sharp. Here's the pitch. Again, you can't get the curveball over. He missed badly twice here.
Right. Now, as you see the third base coach, Rennick, saying, hey, sit on the fastball in the middle of the plate. That's what that sign means. Make it be right there. And, of course, this is a fastball situation. And if it's not, Gaetti should take the pitch.
And Cal's got it to Hewlett 1, and he'll be content with that. Cal Ripken has saved the game, at least for the moment.
Well, he got the fastball, and he hit it hard, but you can't guide the baseball. And it's a great play by Ripken to keep the game going. This is Ripken isolated. He gets ready for the pitch. Watch him take his hop right there. That lets you take your movement where you want to go, and they can only get one. Force out. Now you see Hewlett. He takes a look over at Puckett, who's going to third base. Ooh. Nice play.
He hit his chin right in the turf there. Now there's Puckett. He's the possible winning run, and he's at third with only one man out. Gaetti, the runner at first, not so important, except that because he's still at first, they can get a double play and end this inning. And here's Harper. And they'd like to get the ground ball from him. Olson to the plate. Curveball. It is a foul ball.
In a lot of cases, managers would walk the guy to load the bases so they can try to get a double play to get out of the inning. But if you go ahead and walk Harper, you've got a left-handed hitter coming up, Paul Sorrento. So Robinson is choosing to try to get Brian Harper out and then maybe walk Sorrento. But he's definitely not walking the right-hander to load the bases to pitch to the left-hander. But a lot of managers would do that.
Cal Ripken at short, Tim Hewlett at second, double play depth. The one-strike delivery. Blocked in the dirt by Melvin. Ball one. Look at those hit totals. 25 hits in the game. Only 6 runs. We've had so many situations very much like this.
Well, the Twins are even worse because the only runs they've scored have come on a home run by Hrbek. So no one else has been able to hit in this situation.
Harper trying to bring Puckett home, and he's done it. Base hit. The ball game is over, and the Twins have won it. Brian Harper with the single. Twins have won 4-3 in the ninth.
Well, what Harper did was great. He looked for the curveball, he got it, and he lined it into center field.
And Cal Ripken, on that same play, has set the all-time consecutive errorless streak at shortstop. It's not the way he wanted it to happen.
Well, I guarantee he's not thinking about that right now. But there you see some of his teammates who are concerned coming over saying congratulations. And that's the one thing about a team. You are pulling for your teammates to do well. Brian Harper did well tonight, and the Minnesota Twins come up with a run in the bottom of the ninth to win it.
So it's a new month, and Tom Kelly and his ball club hoping that tonight is what they're going to be seeing a lot more of in July. For the Orioles, the struggle continues. Olson has an off night. We'll see you next Sunday in Cleveland, the world champion A's and the Indians, 8 o'clock Eastern. Now, John Miller for Joe Morgan saying stay tuned for SportsCenter next.